But the other thing I found out, which was absolutely fascinating, is that not only has Poldark got a standing actor for the shots of him riding away across Cornwall, you see what I mean? But the horse has got a standing horse.
Standing horse?
Yeah.
Can the horse not act?
More phone calls from the lost and found of free speech.
Outrageous opinion and controversial comment with the dual voltage dream team. The Michaels, Graham and Parry. He's back, is he?
Through the night until dawn's early light.
The two Mikes, Parry and Graham on Talk Sport.
Look at the light! I've never said that.
Yes, you have.
I have not, you fool. You're trying to brand me like some sort of lunatic.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and it's time to say a very good morning to a very happy, presumably, Mr. Mike, Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Mike, and of course I'm happy. Get a result like that, that's brilliant, but you can't get carried away with these things. Manchester City are such a good team. I mean, Aguero's contribution to the Manchester City goal was sublime football.
Yes, it was.
The only problem I have with that man Aguero is wearing gloves on a night when the weather is so mild.
Well, I don't know if it's mild up in that part of the woods, is it?
It's not freezing. I mean, you couldn't see any ice on the ground, could you? There wasn't any snow on the ground. There wasn't any, freezing rain hitting the turf or anything like that. So I find it a bit odd, in the extreme, really, that people go around wearing gloves in this sort of weather.
He always wears gloves.
Don't need them.
Aguero wears gloves.
Well, he doesn't need them. He comes from a very hot country, Aguero. He doesn't come from
Argentina's not
Iceland.
Well, if he came from a hot country, that'd be all the more reason why he needs to wear gloves.
Why?
Because he wouldn't be used to the cold weather.
No, but he should have hot blood in him. He shouldn't need gloves and all that kind of stuff.
But Argentina's not a particularly hot country. I mean, Argentina's about the same.
Argentina's very hot.
It's not really hot.
It's very hot.
It's as far away from the equator as many countries in Northern Europe.
I've been in Bariloche, which is which is a favourite skiing resort in Patagonia in the winter, which is like our summer.
Right.
And I've been in Bariloche in the summer when it has been like the Congo.
So they get snow in the winter then.
Yeah, of course they do. They get loads of snow.
Yeah, so it's not what you would call a hot country.
Well, it is in the summer.
A hot country, you would say, doesn't get snow. I mean, like,
Don't
for example...
cry for
a country
me,
like
Argentina.
A country like Sudan, for example, you would call a hot country. They don't get snow at all.
No, of course they don't get snow in Sudan. It's on the equator, you
That's
idiot.
what I mean. That's a hot country.
Yeah,
but Argentina, where they get snow, is not a hot country.
Anyway, listen, does anybody still understand the offside rule? Because I thought at least one of the two goals Everton, quotes, scored, unquotes, but which were ruled offside, was onside.
Right.
And I thought, actually, Everton's opener was offside.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why it was given.
Right.
I mean, all the technical experts I listened to afterwards said, not interfering with play. And
this is the issue, isn't it? Interfering with play.
And he was
Shouldn't
there.
they just get rid of that idea?
Exactly. I mean, Lukaku was clearly offside, wasn't he, for the goal that Everton scored? I'd have thought.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first goal, and then, of course, Lukaku's second goal was just an absolute dream.
Yeah.
An absolute dream.
But you've got to worry about his injury, though, haven't you?
What about that cross from Gareth Barry that put right onto Lukaku's head? He managed to ghost between two Manchester City defenders as if they weren't there. I thought it was genius.
Yeah, really. Well, tell us more about the injury, though, because
I don't know, do I? What do you think I am? Some sort of physiotherapist or something?
Well, no, but I mean, you must be on the Everton grapevine. You'll be hearing things about what's being said, and I mean, I won't know maybe until tomorrow. But without Lukaku, Everton are a much less dangerous force, you would say.
Look, Lukaku is a world-class player, and he adds that extra sparkle to any team. However, I do believe that Everton's squad is strong enough these days to get by without him. Certainly in the FA Cup third round against Dagenham and Redbridge, which are the third lowest team in the Football League.
Indeed.
So I would not expect to see him playing this weekend. We have Kone, we have other people who can fulfil that, the pincer striking role up front. I wouldn't expect to see him, but funnily enough, I don't get a call from Everton's head of medicine after every game, especially in the midweek
I'm not
evening,
suggesting you do.
to tell me and inform me what Lukaku's
I'm not
problem
suggesting
is.
you do. All right, well, let me ask you the next question then, which is what happens if he has got an injury which keeps him out for a while, and thereby, Everton lose their most potent strike force?
Rather hypothetical.
Well, very hypothetical, but not out of the question.
Well,
this is the time of year when players get injured and have to be out for a while.
I refuse to tempt fate by pursuing that question, as we don't actually know the extent of the injury. What I would say is that Everton play better away from home than at home, okay? having lost, I think we only lost one league game away, or is it two? I can't remember now. I'll check that.
I'll check that for you.
On my statistical information machine, yeah. But, no, what I was going to say is we seem to play better away from home than we do at home. All the games I've seen him playing this season have been away from home, and there's been some sparkling football, Southampton 3-0 and all that kind of stuff. And so, therefore, and of course, we're going to Manchester City for a warm-up before we go there for the League Cup second leg.
Is it a warm-up, or is it a more important game, though? More important game for Manchester City, maybe.
It's a more important game for Manchester City. It's not more important for us because my eyes now are firmly on silverware at Wembley at the end of February in the League Cup final.
Have you booked that day off?
Well, I don't need to.
Why not?
It's a Sunday.
Yeah, but I mean, you have other things going on. I mean, you have to make sure that you kind of, you protect the dates just in case there's other things that you commit to, and then you suddenly realise, oh my goodness, I have to be at the cup final.
Well, Everton aren't there yet.
No, I know that.
And so
I'm just trying to work out if you're superstitious.
I never count my chickens before they're hatched, which is an expression I haven't heard for quite a long time, actually, but it is an expression I use often, because I think if you start trying to make arrangements in life for things that haven't yet happened, you are a fool.
You can be caught out.
You can be caught out,
but
indeed.
Equally, you wouldn't want to, block the date off, is what I'm saying, with something else.
Well, it's a bit like this, really. If Everton get to League Cup final, and I will hopefully be there, then anything else that's going on in life, I would put into second place.
Yes.
Against that.
Right.
Of course, I'm a professional, and if I was called upon to offer my professional services in such a situation, then one would have to consider that, obviously.
What, you mean if you were offered some work?
Well, it depends what sort of work it was, if you see what I mean. Yeah. I must admit, I do prefer when Everton are in a classic game to be in a not working situation, because then I feel you can relax more
of course.
in a situation and
enjoy. You were at the last cup final.
Enjoy the ambience. Yes, of course.
Was that 95, was it?
No, in 95 we won it, but then the last cup final we lost against Chelsea in 2009.
No, okay.
And, of course, that year we were also in a semi-final at Wembley against Manchester United, which we won on a penalty shootout.
Right.
And since then, we have been in a semi-final against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Kenny Dalglish's Liverpool, remember?
Okay.
When
was that at Wembley as well?
Yeah, that was at Wembley. Luis Suarez scored the goal that equalised against us, and then we lost, I'm afraid.
Right.
So that's the history of Everton's Cup experiences since we last won it in 95, which, of course, was our last trophy. I think it's the longest period of time in the club's history that we've gone without a trophy. Let me just work this out in my head. We won the league title in 63, having not won it since 39. I think that's right. So it's not the longest yet.
Well, it's not the longest, no.
Yeah,
because it's only 21 years.
Yes, but there were 6 years of war. There were 6 years of war when there was no league football.
Right.
So you have to count it from 1946 to 63, which is 17 years. So it is the longest time.
So what was the previous one? 30 what?
We won the league title in 1939.
39, okay.
But then the league was suspended for 6 years till 1946.
Yeah.
That's 7 years, actually.
Was the cup suspended as well, then?
Yes, the cup competition was suspended as well. And that meant that we then picked up, and so we played all those years to 63, which is 17 years without winning the trophy.
18 years,
So 17 or 18 years, yeah.
Oh, well, there we are.
So there we are.
Well, I'd be delighted if it's a Liverpool-Everton final.
Well, I would as well. I think a lot of the country would be. I think it really sparkles and lights up. If it was a Manchester United-Manchester City final, it would be the same.
Yeah.
I would join in the ambience of one city having two great football teams competing against each other. I think it will be utterly sparkling.
Now, just on a matter of the weather, Chris has tweeted in to say it's freezing up here in Merseyside, Porky, so pipe down.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be why Aguero was wearing gloves.
I don't know why footballers wear gloves. Why do they wear gloves?
Well, because it protects the extremities. If your tips of your fingers are feeling cold, or tips of your toes are feeling cold, then it's an uncomfortable situation. So, I mean, I'm surprised if he was the only player wearing gloves last night.
Well, what I don't understand is I would find it an incumbence on my ability for my arms to move backwards and forwards. Would you?
No.
Yeah, I would.
No, because if your hands are warm, then you feel much better about yourself.
No, I think an elite athlete has to run with a bodily stance where his arms are probably only passing, his hips and his ribs by a matter of a quarter of an inch, so as to cut down on wind drag against the frame. You see what I mean? The body.
Yes.
And I think if you've got gloves on, I think you're going to start brushing your hands against your body all the time.
Well, they're very thin gloves, aren't they?
Well, they're not, are they?
They're tiny, thin
gloves.
No,
they're not. They're woolly
they
gloves. No, they're woolly gloves. They're the sort of gloves that your mum used to knit you when you were 8 years of
like
age.
Those thin insulate
No,
things,
they're not.
Aren't they?
No, they're definitely not.
Well, he's wearing woolly gloves.
Woolly gloves,
Are you sure?
I'm certain.
We may have to check this out.
No,
I'm pretty sure they'll be wearing the thinnest of thin gloves?
No, they don't. They wear woolly gloves. This is the whole point.
Well, wouldn't they get wet if they were woolly gloves?
They would if it was raining, but it wasn't raining.
No, but even if they touched the ground. They were watering the pitch an awful lot last night.
Yeah, they were
watering the pitch. A couple of people actually
pitch.
mentioned that to me on Twitter.
Yes.
Why are Everton doing so much watering of the pitch?
Well, to make the pitch in good condition, because you can play better football
Is
on
it not to make it more
on a
slick?
well-conditioned pitch.
Barcelona are famous for doing that.
No, not at all.
Is that where Martinez picked up that trick?
I think
it's like sort of gerrymandering scenario, isn't it?
It is. I think Brian Clough, on one occasion, I think when he was manager of Hartlepool or something like that, he used to water the pitch until there was 2 inches of water on it, because at least his players knew what they had to do.
That's what I mean.
And they trained on those sort of pitches because, Hartlepool's training ground in those days was probably some kind of a swamp somewhere in County Durham or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And therefore they thought, when we transfer from the swamp to the pitch, if the pitch looks the same as the swamp, we've got an advantage. And that's what they used to do, as you can well understand.
Indeed. Well, we'll be talking to Adrian Heath coming up a little bit later on about the game and about what his hopes are for Everton this season.
Absolutely.
And what he thinks Everton should do if Lukaku does turn out to be injured for a little while. We should talk about all of that.
Well, Kone will play up front instead.
I asked you for your alternative.
I told you.
No, you didn't.
I did. I said Kone.
Well, you've just told me now.
Kone and Lukaku can play brilliantly together, but they can also play independently brilliantly as well. And also, the other lad who might still get a go, is Naismith, who wants away.
Isn't he leaving?
Well, he wanted to leave in the summer and go and take up an offer to go to Norwich, I understand. But Mr. Martin, as the manager, said, no, you're staying here. And he's scored a hat-trick for Everton since then.
Right.
And so all I can say is, it could be an opportunity for him as well. I think he's a great player. He's got a great attitude to life.
Yeah.
At Christmas, instead of doing what a lot of footballers do, and that is going and burying themselves away in their mansions and retiring from life, he went to Scotland and ran a homeless lunch club on Christmas Day.
Did he?
To help people out.
What a splendid man he is.
He is a great guy. He goes around giving money to down and outs.
Does he?
The homeless.
Right.
Deadbeats and people like that, you know what I mean? Well, I don't mean deadbeats in the sense of, but you know what I'm talking about. People who
filthy beggars.
No. Yeah. People who have trouble maintaining themselves in life. That sort of thing.
Indeed.
He's got a great social conscience, which I think is a great thing.
Okay, all right.
And as long as he has, that's fine.
Well, that's enough of the Naismith Appreciation Society. Have you seen the time?
Yeah, good idea.
This is Talk Sport.
Good idea.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There's a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. And later on tonight, very excitingly, it's the first Porkyvision of the new year.
It is, yes.
So we're all looking forward to that.
And I've got a new style for it, by the way.
Have you?
Yeah, I came under some fierce criticism last year for Porkyvision because I did it in my own inimitable way, okay?
Yes, of course.
And that was that, I wasn't going to do a direct, straight, I looked at this programme, this is what I think of it. That's too boring in my view.
Right.
I did it in a way where I went round the corner on these reviews, okay?
Yeah.
But tonight I'm changing the style.
Okay.
Changing the style.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now, I thought of you earlier on. I don't know whether you saw this guy, Sir Philip Dilly, who you've made reference to in the past.
Well, he was one of my losers.
He was indeed,
in my winners and losers
Did you see him appearing? Did you see him appearing before the Parliamentary Select Committee today?
See his suntan.
One, he had this great suntan, right?
Because he's been in Barbados.
But he came out with the most amazing sort of what I regarded as Porkyism.
Yeah.
When they said to him, can you please explain why, when you went off to Barbados for your summer holidays, the winter holidays over Christmas, the Environment Agency issued a statement saying that you were at home monitoring everything. And he said, well, of course, the thing is, he said, I was the one that did approve that. And he said, the thing is, my wife is from the Caribbean, and when I go to the Caribbean with her, I feel as though I am at home.
I'm at home, yeah.
You ever heard anything so ridiculous?
No, it is utterly ridiculous.
Absolutely unbelievable. Then he said, and I travel an awful lot, probably more than most people, and for that reason, it's not possible to guarantee that I won't be away again when there's another flooding emergency.
Yeah,
I mean, has it ever occurred to this guy that maybe he's too busy having holidays to have a job?
I feel a shred of sympathy for people who, want to go to a home which is not their main home or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not home, is it?
No, but what I'm saying is this. I don't mind them going. The true test of whether on top of the job is that they should come back before public demand asks them to come back.
Yeah.
And the biggest mistake that Boris Johnson ever made was staying in Canada when the London riots erupted.
Yeah.
And for 3 days, he was in a position where he didn't seem to be responding quickly enough to the crisis that was happening in the city of which he was mayor.
Exactly.
And I think if you do that, you lose the confidence of the people.
As the guy at the Select Committee said, well, you may have noticed that if a head of state goes away on holiday and a major crisis erupts at home and he doesn't come back from holiday, by the time he does come back, you find he's no longer the head of state.
Well, that sometimes happened in tin pot dictatorships. However, it did not happen with our very own Queen when Diana, Princess of Wales, died.
That's true, but she was only in Balmoral, though, wasn't she?
She was in Balmoral in Scotland, but the calls for her to return to London grew by the amount of flowers that appeared outside Buckingham Palace.
And Kensington Palace.
Which reached proportions nobody's ever seen before in the whole of the history of the world.
I know.
There were so many flowers that you couldn't get down the mall and all this kind of stuff, But the Queen doggedly...
well, they made her come out at Balmoral first, didn't they? Came out and had a look at all the flowers there, didn't they?
Yes, but she doggedly stuck to royal protocol. And that is that as Diana was not, a government minister and all this kind of stuff, she was divorced from Charles and all that, it would have seemed inappropriate for the monarch to rush back to the capital and to Buckingham Palace in that sort of situation. It was a precedent, but eventually, I think she felt humanely she should do something.
Quite. Now, Dr. B says, arguably the best player on the pitch last night, Besic, he had gloves on as well.
Yep, Besic was okay.
You don't mind him wearing gloves?
He was better. He was better. I know his agent actually very well, and he had high hopes for him, and he really did flourish last night.
He certainly seemed to have the mark of Yaya Toure, didn't he?
He certainly did.
Now, how about this from David? He says, morning, lads. He says, I might as well get this out now. Well done to Everton, but if that injury is bad, Everton will not be going to Wembley, he says.
Well, you can't say that, but I mean, look, that's all speculation, and we've got to wait and find out what exactly is going on. As I say, I think Everton are fortunate in that they've got a team from a lower division in the FA Cup on Saturday. It's a standard 3:00 game, so it's not like they're playing early, late, or anything like that. So I think a lot of their players will get a bit of a rest. I hope Everton don't make the mistake of valuing or underrating the opposition.
Well, I don't
because
think
they're
you can
a bit of a rally.
I don't think you can underrate a team like Dagenham and Redbridge.
They've won the last two.
Yeah, I know they've won the last two, but they're in the bottom, as you say, of the Football League. Here's one from Nico. He says, I'm Argentinian, and in the summer it's unbearably hot. You can barely be outdoors at times, but it usually snows in the southern provinces as well.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've just told you. Have you been in Buenos Aires in the summer?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is very hot.
It's just like being in an oven.
But it's not what you would call a hot country.
Oh, I think it's our country. Anyway, look, the other issue we've got to look at tonight, because this is going to become a national crisis,
What's that?
is no winner again on the Lotto.
Yeah.
Now, the jackpot now has gone to 60 million.
I thought they were going to say if nobody wins it, that they're going to give it to the five numbers, the next five numbers down or something.
I certainly read that this was the last rollover tonight, and if it wasn't run, it would be dissipated, the money. But I'm looking here at tomorrow morning's Daily Mirror. It says Lotto jackpot hit 60 million.
Right.
A staggering lottery jackpot of £60 million must be won on Saturday after nobody picked last night's winning numbers.
Right.
If one person scoops the massive prize, it'll be the biggest Lotto winner ever created in the UK.
So it's not. So is there another rollover or not then?
There is. It is. A National Lottery spokesman says we now have a record-breaking Lotto jackpot up for grabs, and it has to be won this weekend, no matter what.
So that's where they're going to invoke this new system. If nobody gets six numbers, they're going to go down to five.
Apparently, all these mad people think, because it's a £60 million jackpot, I'll buy 10 numbers because I've got a better chance of winning. No, you haven't.
Well, we had this conversation many weeks ago, or months ago, you might say.
No, you've got a better chance of winning with 10 numbers than with 10 lines rather than with one line. But the prize is still the same. It doesn't get any bigger.
No, but also, I mean, the likelihood of each ticket winning is the same.
No, it's not. We're not going to have that conversation
we did have that conversation.
Yeah, but we're not going to have it again. Because
it's the same, because in fact, I've read a piece, interestingly enough, just last week about this.
Yeah.
Same as if you're tossing a coin.
Yeah.
If you're tossing a coin for heads or tails, it doesn't matter how many times you toss the coin.
No.
It doesn't get more likely to become tails or heads.
I totally agree.
It's exactly the same every single time.
I totally agree.
Which is why every single ticket that you buy has exactly the same chance of winning.
Yeah.
You don't have more chance of winning because you've got 10.
Well, you do, because you could win 10. You've got 10 opportunities to win if you buy 10 lines.
Did you buy any tickets yesterday?
10 lines.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Did you do it before the system broke down? Because the system broke down as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, at some point or other. I think leading up to 7 o'clock.
Right.
Online, the system was all over the place.
But you see, what they've done is, as you may or may not know this, but I'm an avid lottery follower, because I believe it's a great thrill to have those 5 numbers, or 6 numbers, isn't it? 6, and suddenly think, wow, have I suddenly come into huge amounts of money?
Yeah.
Now, what happens is that when it started, and for the first 20 years, I think it was, because it started in, I think, 94 or 95.
Yeah.
So 95. So what is it now? So it's 20 years.
That's
20 years.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years and a bit.
Yeah. So, okay. So for the first 20 years, it was numbers 1 to 49. Now, what I do is I do one row of the same numbers every Wednesday and Saturday, and then, depending on how flush or otherwise I feel, I might buy another 2 lines or something like that.
What do you mean
See
flush?
Well, whether I feel wealthy
one of
or
the tickets
poor.
now £2, right?
£2.
So when you say buy another 10 lines, that's 20 quid.
No, sorry, I got that wrong. £10, 5 lines.
5 lines,
£5.
£10.
Yes, 5 lines, £10.
Well, I mean, it's not as if you can't afford a tenner, is it? I mean, it's the sort of money you give away to the filthy beggars in the street.
Well. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I put a load of my lucky numbers together.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, my favourite footballer of all time, Alan Ball, used to wear the number 8 shirt.
Yeah.
The number of the first house I ever lived in. Birth dates of the family and all that.
Yeah.
And so I have this.
You know, they say, I was reading, here's another thing, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
About putting in, lots of people put in birth dates of the families,
Yes.
right? But now they've increased the number of balls.
Yes.
So there are now higher numbers. It goes up to, 59 now.
This is what I'm about to tell you.
Also, what they say is lots of people use birthdays, which means that they limit their numbers to 31.
Yeah.
So actually, if you want to win more likelihood of winning where there are less numbers being picked,
Yes.
you go above 31.
Yes, okay.
So you shouldn't limit yourself to birthday
Oh, no,
numbers.
I don't. I just said to you, the number of the first house I lived in, favourite footballer, other things like that, you know.
Yeah.
But my last number on my static line, for want of a better word, was 49.
Yeah.
And so that was my lucky line. I
Right.
thought it's never won, but obviously if it was, I wouldn't be sitting here if it had. Now, what I'm saying is, then they increase it, you're quite right, from 1 to 49 to 1 to 59. That incidentally put the odds of winning up from 1 in 14 million to 1 in 45 million,
Right.
which is a massive contract.
It is.
And as Ash, the man who controls the desk in the previous show, said to me on the way out, that's a tax on poor people. Because poor people...
Well, people said that when they brought the lottery in.
Poor people who seek wealth out of buying a lottery ticket...
It's not a tax.
Of course it is. It makes it less likely they're going to win.
No, it's not a tax.
If you buy one ticket, it makes it less likely they're going to win.
A tax is something that you are forced to pay.
Yeah, well...
You're not forced to buy a lottery ticket.
Anyway.
You're not forced to dream of becoming a multimillionaire. You're not forced to be greedy enough to want to become a multimillionaire.
Anyway, the point of the story is, it means now that the last 10 numbers on the lottery ticket that I fill in each Wednesday and Saturday are irrelevant to me on my first line.
Why?
Because I can't include them because my static numbers end at 49, the ones that I do every week, you know.
Well, why don't you just change the system?
Well, no, what I do is then I just fill in another one and I have 3 numbers between 49 and 59 to tempt fate.
Yes.
But
don't you think lots of people will be in that same position?
Well, maybe.
They'll have had these numbers they've done forever,
Yes.
which will always stop at 49.
Could be.
Which is why you should go above it, because that's where there's more likelihood of you winning something.
Could indeed
Because if you
be.
look at the numbers that were won last night, or the winning numbers, 8, 30, 40, 50, 54, 57. So 3 of the winning numbers were above 49.
Is that right? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
What are the numbers again? Tell me again.
They are 8,
Yeah.
which is one of yours, right?
Yes.
I'm careful here.
Yes.
30,
No, not
not one of
mine.
yours. 40,
No.
50,
No.
54,
Yeah, you see, that's a bummer,
and
that is.
57.
But what I do
Yeah, but
is-
that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you were listening to these people who are giving out advice, saying, include the fact that these numbers have got bigger.
Absolutely.
So you've got more chance now of going above 49 and winning.
Yeah, but no, the other thing is, what I'm going to say is, you can have one of these things called Lucky Dip.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I prefer, because I don't like
You
to
spend an
know.
awful lot of time in a shop doing this.
Yeah, I
don't you?
do, yeah. So I say,
So I
give
haven't
me
got time for that.
Give me 3 Lucky Dips, please, and then give me 3 Lucky Dips.
I hate being behind people like you and I'm trying to buy cigarettes.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it used to be worse in America. When they first introduced lotteries in America, I remember going into, a drugstore to get a packet of cigarettes or something. Newport, those menthol cigarettes.
I remember those.
I'd be standing there for about 10 minutes while the bloke in front of me, A, was asking the shopkeeper to examine 20 tickets from last night, and B, buying another 20 for today.
And then, you always think they're just finished. And then they go, can I have another 5 of those?
One of those,
Or
5 of those,
6
10 of those.
Yeah, but you're not exactly that man, though.
No,
You're
I'm
the man
not.
of the guy doing that in front of me.
I'm very experienced, and I make sure I do it very, very quickly. Don't worry about it, okay? You've got nothing to worry about.
I'm not worried about it. Lots more to come. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Adrian Heath, former Everton player, of course, about last night's performance and where Everton can go, how far they can go this season. This is TalkSport.
TalkSport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. TalkSport.
The lady's got potential, she ought to go far. She always knows exactly who her best friends are. The greatest social climber since Cinderella. But Ava's not the only one.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. That's from Evita. Do you know that particular
Well, I didn't
song?
actually. I like Evita. I think it's great. I've never seen it, but I mean, I've heard the.
I've never seen it either.
The musical track.
I'm not a big fan of musicals, to be honest.
I kind of am, but I find I just can't. I can't sit there for 2 hours and watch it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the break in the middle, I usually get bladderated because I like to go and have a drink. And
Do you go to those theatres where you have to book your drink before you go to the
Whenever I-
half-time bar?
Excuse me, whenever I go down to the half-time bar, my bottle with 2 glasses is always there on my table and all that kind of stuff, you know. But then I find, I'm quite enjoying this. Excuse me, I'm not sure I want to go back into the theatre and watch the second half.
No.
But anyway, look, I'll tell you why we played that. This
Yeah.
is fantastic, and I hadn't heard about this, but I come across it reading my entertainment journals, okay?
Yeah. Right.
Now, what's happened is, Andrew Lloyd Webber has had his biggest hit for a good number of years, maybe even a decade, on Broadway. And it's a thing called the School of Rock.
Oh, yeah.
But it involves young kids and their aspirations to become rock stars and all
it's
this
a bit
kind
like
of stuff.
Fame, I presume, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit
Remember
like
that show
Fame. It is. It's School of Rock.
Yeah.
And guess who the co-writer of it is with him?
I don't know.
And it's not Tim, the cricket fan.
Tim Rice.
It's not Tim Rice.
Well, they split up a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Well, they did, but I think they still work and know each other. I saw Tim Rice in the Everton boardroom about 2 years ago. I asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, we're still good friends." And all that. But anyway, the guy he's writing with is Julian Fellows.
Oh, yeah.
Who is the creator of Downton Abbey.
He is indeed.
Yeah. Now, what they've done is this School of Rock has proved a massive hit on Broadway.
Yeah.
It's going to be transferred to the West End, but for some known reason he launched it there. He obviously knows what he's doing. But the problem is it's about aspiring kids who want to become rock stars. There aren't enough children in this country who know how to play the sort of instruments that you have to play to be a potential rock star. What he's saying is, he's actually said the problem is in Britain that only sort of posh children learn music at school, and what they learn is the violin and the recorder. They do not learn how to play the guitar.
Right.
So he's going to have to import kids from America, youngsters from America, like teenagers and all that, to play the lead roles in this musical when he brings it here.
That's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Because, I mean, you'd think with all this stuff like the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and all of that, when you've always got these kids coming on, I mean, most of them are singers, I suppose.
Yes.
But they're not necessarily playing an instrument. There'd be an even bigger pool of talent, and there'd be even more kids wanting to be famous than ever.
You would, exactly. Listen to this here. It says, written with fellow peer Julian Fellows, obviously of Downton, the creator of Downton.
It's a bit of a jump, isn't it, to go from Downton Abbey to School of Rock?
Well, I think it just shows how talented, how multi-talented. But it says, the play grossed more than $1.5 million in a sellout Christmas week, smashing the house record previously held by Mamma Mia.
Right.
Lord Lloyd Webber said a nationwide search would now begin in the UK to cast the musical for a West End run at the London Palladium.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the London Palladium?
I think I have,
I have.
Many
Fantastic.
years ago, though.
Absolutely wonderful.
A long time ago.
Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Yeah.
Remember that on a Sunday night?
I think I used
with Norman Wisdom.
I think my parents took me there.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, it says, but the difficulty of finding suitably talented youngsters, along with the need to comply with Britain's legal requirements on using child performers, could delay the opening.
Oh, well, maybe that's the key to it then. What are these legal requirements he's talking about?
I'm just going to quote Lord Lloyd Webber. Lord Lloyd Webber explained, in America, there are lots of schools where the kids learn rock instruments. I have to admit, I don't know what we're going to find in Britain. Whether we'll find it to the same degree, I doubt it.
Yeah.
So it will probably take a little bit longer. In America, we started casting almost exactly a year ago, so it'll be either cast and ready to go by October or the early part of next year. It just depends on what we find. However, I worry that children in this country play the violin and the recorder rather than the guitar.
Yeah, well, I learned how to play the violin when I was at school.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah.
Yes,
but, I mean, the guitar was not really an available thing. He's quite right. And I don't, my kids in school are learning the piano. But there's nobody actually teaching them the guitar, are there?
No.
Because it's quite easy to learn the piano because they have like a sort of, a flat keyboard, which is just made of cardboard, and they learn first on that. And then they
it doesn't make any noise then?
And they don't, it doesn't make any noise. They
No,
just learn where
I
to
see.
put their fingers. And then they can learn on any kind of sort of electronic organ, as it were. You don't actually need to have a proper piano.
Right, OK. Now,
I mean, not everybody can afford one.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, to answer your question about the second issue, what's the legal requirements, right? So he also goes to say, staging the show in the UK has been complicated by legal requirements. In America, you can cast children for a period of time as if they're adults.
Right.
Providing they have tuition and everything, you can use one cast with understudies in the same way as you do for ordinary actors, providing they're receiving education whilst the production is ongoing.
Yeah.
But in Britain, we have to have 3 separate casts.
Right. What, because they're not allowed to work long hours?
Not allowed to long work hours and not allowed to be away from school for long periods of time.
Right.
So he says, so I'm a little bit unsure. I'm hoping we can get it open next year, but it may well be, it won't be until the year after,
But what
2017.
about all these stage schools that kids go to?
Well, I don't know. Well, stage schools, I suppose, are schools. They're both
That's
educated
what I mean.
and they learn how to act.
Are
and
all
that
the
kind of
kids
stuff.
at these stage schools learning acting rather than music then?
Well, I think they are, yeah.
Because you're in Fame, which was based on that proper school in New York.
Fame, I'm going to live
Yeah, all right.
forever.
I don't know. That's twice you've had a swing song already.
I want to learn how to fly.
Yeah, well, I wish you would.
Wasn't Bobby DeVito in that?
No, I don't think so.
Who, what's his
Bobby
name?
DeVito.
Sorry.
Bobby DeVito.
What was his name? Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
In Fame, when he was in Taxi.
Ah, yeah, but that was it, wasn't it?
I don't know if he was in Fame.
Well, hang on. Taxi.
Yeah.
Because the clip that you see for that song I've just sung
Yeah.
is Danny DeVito putting a musical recorder on the top of his yellow taxi outside the school in New York, isn't
Are
it?
you sure it's not them just dancing on taxis outside? It's got nothing to do with Taxi.
Oh, no, it's got nothing to do with Taxi. No, that's a shot from the film.
That's what I
What's
mean.
the film called?
Fame.
Oh, the film is called Fame.
Yeah.
And is the song called Fame as well?
The TV show was called Fame.
Oh, I see. It was a TV show.
But
I
they
thought
were
it was a
dancing
film.
outside, but the actual school itself,
Yeah.
where they filmed the action of them dancing on cabs,
Yes.
that school actually does exist.
Of course it does.
On the Upper East Side of New York.
I've been there.
It's
I
up
went there,
near,
did
like,
stories on
58th
it.
Street.
Yeah, 58th Street, that's right,
But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, but don't we have something
Yeah.
similar in this country?
Well, you'd think so.
You
You'd
know
think
what,
so.
by the way, the biggest draw now apparently in the West End is going to be the biggest ever sale of any theatre show of all time.
Name?
Is this new Harry Potter thing that J.K. Rowling's been involved in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's a new play, but it's not even opening. I
When
think.
does that open?
I don't think it's
Craig?
even opening until next year, but they've already got it booked
Right.
all the way through. Sorry, I tell a lie. I think it's opening this year, but it's already booked all the way through to almost the end of 2017.
How bizarre.
You can't get a ticket for it.
Oh, dear. I wouldn't go and see it because I've never read a Harry Potter book.
You've never seen a Harry Potter film?
No.
They are very good.
I can't sit by them.
You
and-
should
and
see
watch
them.
them.
You should
Anyway,
see one. Let me read you a couple of tweets
That'd
while
be
we're
good.
here. Here's one from Neil. He
Yeah.
said, Camelot, who run the lottery, are now owned by the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund in Canada,
What?
says Neil.
What?
Well, they got sold off, didn't they, Camelot? I think
to
that's
a
true.
pension fund in Canada.
Yeah, well, apparently so. Everett says, obviously, if Porky has been listening to MG this year, the only numbers he should play the lottery is a bunch of number 47s.
47.
Well, remember I've told you about number 47 being
Oh, I
the
see
most
what you mean. Yeah,
the most frequently occurring random number. Patrick says, like in any draw, raffle or lottery, the more tickets you have, the better chance of winning.
Yes,
Hashtag
exactly.
simple. Yeah, but it doesn't improve the odds, though, is my point.
It doesn't improve
Yes, you
the
have a
odds.
better chance of winning, probably because you've got more tickets. But
I'm not getting-
it's a,
I'm not
it's
getting
a
into
minimal thing.
I'm not getting into that.
Becky says, tell Porky the numbers above 49 are very relevant, especially if all 6 are 50 and above.
Yeah.
I always pick 47 as it is the most common.
Yeah, well, we've been through that thing. Now, you told me that you got your glasses at Tesco's.
Yes.
And I roundly mocked you.
You did mock me, yeah.
Because I thought...
in a way
you
which
know.
was quite remarkable.
And then a chap who was an optician...
No, a guy whose wife was an optician, I think,
that's right.
at Tesco's, yeah.
A chap came on whose wife was an optician at Tesco, and then I had to concede and say, well, that's actually excellent. And funny
Yeah.
enough, since then,
Yeah.
there is a 24-hour Tesco near me down
Yes.
in Stockbroker Belt,
Yes.
and they advertise optical services.
Yeah, well, they have, and opticians, I'm sure.
But in pursuing...
So have you changed your mind on it now, then?
Well, I think I'm going to get my glasses changed, and I think out of loyalty I will go to Tesco's.
Really?
I think I will, yeah.
Out of loyalty to me?
No, out of loyalty to Sir Terence Leahy,
Oh,
who
who
built
doesn't
the
run
great
Tesco's anymore.
Doesn't run Tesco's anymore,
Right.
but I think he introduced the service.
Well,
you
I
see.
think you'll find it's a pretty good service.
I think it's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what I found? So I go on the old website to find out whether it's all working, and I found out something quite remarkable. Tesco is launching a new service
Yeah.
for people like you.
Okay.
Why do I say that?
I don't know, because you're going to make some insult now.
No. They're going to trial pet grooming.
Pet grooming?
Pet grooming.
Yeah, really?
You could take your dog to Tesco's,
Yeah.
and whilst you are literally, you got
That's a great idea.
got your trolley in your basket,
Yeah,
and you're
that's a
going
great
round,
idea.
right? That you will take your dog to the pet den,
Yeah.
right? And they're launching this, by the way.
It's sort of like a playpen for pets.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And they're launching this in one of your favourite cities in this country, because
Oh,
you
yeah?
used to live there.
Uh-huh.
Cardiff, boyo.
Cardiff.
Okay.
Very nice.
Culverhouse
Well, when you
Cross.
say in this country, I suppose you should be careful with that. 'cause
Yeah,
people
well, in
Wales
the
might-
United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Culverhouse Cross. Does that mean anything to you?
Culverhouse Cross, yes, it does.
Yeah, okay. Culverhouse Cross store
Yeah.
in Cardiff,
Yeah.
where shoppers can have their cats and dogs preened while they shop.
Yeah.
And it's a full grooming service. You know, they'll cut the dog's hair, they'll, do its nails, literally.
Give it a
'cause the-
shampoo.
You give it a shampoo.
Well, a lot of people like to do that. I mean, I don't do that
Yeah.
with my dog because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really something that he requires. It's
Yes.
not something that he likes. But I know a lot
Yes.
of people that do. You do meet a lot of people who like to take their dogs to the grooming and they cut their toenails because
Yes.
their toenails sometimes can be quite
Oh, no,
a pain in the
I
neck
agree.
to cut,
I
especially if
agree.
you don't know what you're doing. doing.
I agree. Now, listen, you know when you're out walking your dog,
Yeah.
and of course it's when you're out walking your dog that you need to then take it for a grooming because it might get all muddy and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it does, yeah, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
the point. I mean, you can't, I
Yeah.
don't know what they would say if you took a dog that was sometimes covered completely from
Yes.
head to toe in mud into a pet
Well,
grooming
they'd hose
place.
it down, I suppose,
Would they?
or something like that.
Well, they
Yeah, I
might say
suppose
it's
so,
too dirty.
Now, listen, I found out something absolutely fascinating because having found out then you could groom your dog,
Yeah.
I then once again pursued the idea of acquiring a dog. You
Yeah.
know, I'd love to have a dog, but it's
Yeah.
just a question of
Having enough time
to do all that. Yeah.
To do all that, yeah.
But what I found out is, you know, when you take your dog for a walk.
Yeah.
Now, how far do you think you walk when you take your dog for a walk?
Well, I can tell you exactly how
Realistically,
far.
right?
Well, I can tell you exactly how far because
Yeah.
I have an app, as I've told you, on my phone,
Yes.
which tells me exactly how far I walk every single day.
Right.
And so if I'm actually with the dog,
Yes.
I can do it. And my daily average at the moment this week is not that much. It's 1,916 steps.
Right.
It's something like 1.5 kilometres this week. Normally,
Right.
I walk about 3 or 4.
We should measure it in miles, you know. We still have
Right.
miles in this country. We
Well-
don't have kilometres.
Well, I mean, you can work out a kilometre, can't you?
A kilometre's half a mile.
70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Or 70 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell the difference, can't you?
No, it's 35 miles an hour, yeah. Right, OK, so how much...
I would say, normally, if I walk the dog on a normal sort of walk, it's about
Yeah.
3 miles.
3 miles,
Yeah.
right. Guess how far your dog walks on that walk?
How do you mean?
Your dog walks 6 miles.
Yeah, probably true, actually.
Right?
Yeah, because he runs about.
Because what I've discovered
Yeah.
is that your dog, because exactly the dog's running around,
Yeah.
it goes and sniffs here, sniffs
Yeah.
there, because dogs are led by their nose, literally.
Yeah,
You know
they
the
are.
expression led by the
Yeah.
nose. Dogs are led by their nose. They're picking up scents all over the place. They go burrowing into bushes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And a dog runs rings around its owner and its masters
Yeah.
by walking twice as far as you walk on
Right.
a walk.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Isn't that
I would
absolutely
say.
amazing?
It is amazing.
I found that amazing. I got this from a behavioural expert called Louise Glazebrook.
Uh-huh.
She
Well,
said...
dog behavioural expert.
Dog behavioural expert,
Right.
yeah.
Did you ever take your dog on a walk, or were you too young in those days?
Too
when you
young,
had your
mate.
Dog?
Too young. And I'm not getting into that because you always mock the fact that the dog was epileptic and died by bashing
That's
its
not a
head
question of mocking
against
it.
the wall.
It's just a basic question.
Guess what this lady's dog is called?
I don't know.
Chester.
Chester.
Chester, the
There you
town
go.
I came from. Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
It is.
Isn't that amazing? There's something poetic about all that, you know?
There is, yeah.
Anyway, I thought
You
people
feel-
like to know
you're
that.
feeling slightly emotional tonight.
No, not emotional.
Are you sure?
Not emotional at all.
You
It's
are.
just I want people out there to know when you walk your...
You're being uncharacteristically nice to me for a start.
No, I'm not being absolutely nice to you at all. When you walk your dog, you go 5 miles, your dog goes 10. Just
Yeah.
remember that. It's got little legs.
Yeah.
So, you know, those little legs have to do an awful lot of work.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. We got lots more coming up. Porkyvision
Yeah.
a little bit later on. We'll be talking about North Korea and whether they've actually got a hydrogen bomb in the next hour as well. This is Talk Sport.
When you need all the latest form and odds on all the day's sporting action and you need it fast, you need the Coral Daily Download. Get all the latest news and great offers on all the big games and all the biggest race meetings in one essential package. Delivered to your ears at the speed of sound. Don't miss the Coral Daily Download every morning on the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast from 6 on Talk Sport with Coral. Your best bet for breakfast.
8 strangers.
One of them fellas is not what he says he is.
One deadly connection. 3 Golden Globe nominations. The Evening Standard says it's Tarantino's masterpiece. The Guardian agrees. A masterpiece. 5 stars. Tarantino proves his greatness. The Sun. 5 stars. The Telegraph.
Oh, that's interesting.
The Hateful Eight in cinemas January 8. Rated 18.
What makes a great January sale?
50% off?
You can do better than that.
70% off?
Come on, push the boat out.
100% off?
Bingo! It's TalkTalk's 100% off fibre broadband sale, which means exactly what it says. Get totally unlimited TalkTalk fibre broadband, 5 times the speed of normal broadband, free for 12 months. All you pay is $17.70 line rental. And you'll get our new Super Router. The offer's available to new and existing customers. So visit talktalk.co.uk now. 18-month contract and conditions apply. Price after promo, £10.
Bienvenue au weekend sports breakfast avec Michelle Quinn et Georgie Bingham, the Talk Sport with Benno Vance. It's the breakfast show that cooks up a souffle of sport and a pan au chocolat of pre-match build-up every Saturday and Sunday morning on Talk Sport. The hors d'oeuvre to another big weekend feast of football.
Hey, La, does anyone know the French for meat pie?
The Weekend Sports Breakfast with Mickey Quinn and Georgie Bingham. Saturday and Sunday mornings from 7 on Talk Sport with Benno Vance. 4 years warranty and roadside assistance as standard. Ooh la la.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I feel it coming together. People will see me and cry.
This was another one of those shows that was on like Saturday night, wasn't it? That you'd watch religiously because there was nothing else on. Really,
that's right.
Effectively,
yeah.
But the stories all seem to be exactly the same almost every week.
Yes,
there'll be some troublesome guy. We're going to be thrown out of the school for misbehaving or
that's
something.
Right,
or somebody having a heart broken. I mean, it wasn't exactly one of the great TV shows, was it?
Didn't it spawn that group, New Kids on the Block?
I don't know actually.
I think it did.
Did
Yeah, a bunch of sort of youngsters from New York.
Well, that was where Mark Wahlberg came from.
Oh, did he?
The guy that we met with Will Ferrell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it? Oh,
Mark
okay.
Wahlberg,
I didn't
that's
know
where
that.
he came from, yeah.
I mean, they were sort of the world's first boy band. Lasted about 3 months, didn't they? That's a normal life expectancy of a boy band, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've all been doing pretty well. Now, I've got quite a few tweets I want to read out to you just before we move on.
Yeah.
Here's one from Michael, who says, that Tesco optician's U-turn from Porky is astonishing. More buffoonery from the Porkmeister.
Well, no, I'm all for it. I think if they're offering a service, I'm happy to go and try it out. I just didn't know they did it, that was all.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's one from Paul, who says, it's a shame for the lottery I can't pick the number of goals Everton will score at Manchester City in the return leg. He says that's going to be 0.
Well, we don't know that, do we? I mean, I'm not getting overexcited about it because we've got a very...
You are remarkably restrained,
Well,
actually.
you've got a very tough game to play. You look foolish if you think, oh, we're at Wembley. We're not at Wembley, anywhere near there. No, what I was going to say was, remember that my opticians closed down without even telling me they were closing down.
Well, yeah,
and
because
disappeared.
Donald and Aitchison or something, right?
Yeah, taken over by Boots.
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't want to go to Boots to have my eyes tested.
Why not?
Well, I regard Boots as the place where you get your toothpaste.
Yeah.
And mouthwash.
Right.
Plasters.
Yeah.
I don't want to go
Makeup.
there.
Would you never buy a sandwich from Boots then?
Not really, I don't think. No.
I mean, they do sell an awful lot of different things now at Boots.
Yeah, they do, exactly, yeah. But I don't want to get my my eyes tested at
So
Boots.
you'd be quite happy to get your eyes tested at a place where you buy your baked beans?
Well, Tesco is a brand of which I am associated because of Sir Terence Leahy.
I see.
And so I therefore think that if that was installed under his command, then it must be good.
Even though he's not in charge anymore?
No, I mean, don't you think it makes a difference? If you know actually personally the person who's running the business and you think
Well, I don't know how personally you know the guy.
they're a good code.
But he's not running it anymore.
No, I know, but he actually set it all up.
Right.
I checked this all out.
So will you say all this when you go into the Tesco's optician? Say, look, I'm a personal friend of Terence Leahy. Can you give me a deal?
No, but I do sometimes tell people in Wetherspoons that I have been an acquaintance of Mr. Tim
Wetherspoon?
No, he's not. His name's not. No, Wetherspoon was the name of one of his teachers at school.
Yeah,
Tim Martin.
We
Mr.
met
Tim
on a
Martin.
train, didn't we?
Went on a train to Birmingham.
Yeah.
He was going to
well,
his...
doesn't mean you're a mate of his, though, does it?
I didn't. I said once acquainted.
Oh, okay.
Once acquainted.
Scouser says this, right? He's texted in 81089. Mr. Parry, I'm a red. My son is a blue. Which pub should we frequent at Wembley in February, as my son will be 18 then, and said he would buy me a consolation drink after the potential All-Merseyside final?
I tell you what, Wembley's changed so much over recent years.
Yeah.
There used to be one called the Greyhound, right, which was right on the corner of Wembley High Street and the road that led down to the North Circular. And
I mean, I must say, whenever I've come out of the Wembley tube station
that's right.
and you walk up what is now Wembley Way,
yes,
there's not really any pubs at all.
No pubs.
I mean, there's a couple of places where you can get a drink.
No, mostly it's hotels,
really...
I'm afraid, around Wembley now. There's the Ibis, there's the Hilton, there's a very expensive hotel. You remember when we used to go there and our mate Jack was in charge of the hotel?
Not really,
and it was called the Wembley Park, right? Was it called the Wembley Park? It might have been. I don't know. Anyway, they had to knock it down. He had to reapply for his job, and they built a new one. But the old one that was knocked down was a 3-star. The new one's a 5-star.
Right.
I don't think Jack actually became the manager of the new hotel. I think he got redesignated, so to speak.
Right.
But that new one has got fantastic cocktail bars.
Has it?
Which overlook Wembley Way, you know what I mean? Well, not Wembley Way.
So is that near the tube station then?
No.
Because the Hilton's right by the tube station.
Yes, it is, yeah. They don't overlook Wembley Way. What they overlook the Wembley surround.
Yeah.
What's that called? The
I don't know.
Well, the surround that goes right around Wembley where all the fans are milling
just
around.
The walkway, I suppose.
The walkway around the turnstiles and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's I can't recommend a pub there, mate. What I can recommend is this is a free advert, isn't it? There's a Chinese restaurant in Wembley called Mr. Young's. And I sometimes hold a lunch party there before a final by booking a table for 12.
Oh, okay.
I went there once with...
And is that in the environs of Wembley or is it further away?
It's on Wembley High Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's only around the corner. But I went there once and I was invited. I didn't do it. And what happened was this was a corporate event, and it was criminal really, because it was a cup final, and at the end of the this lunch of 12, where there's free amounts of copious drink and Chinese food. The host then just went around and handed everybody a ticket, a cup final ticket. You know,
Really?
I mean, if you're a kid of 8 and someone handed you a cup final ticket, you'd
Wow.
faint, you know.
Yeah.
But sitting next to me was the guy who was Mrs. Thatcher's chairman of the Tory party, but then the scandal of the affair with Sarah Keys.
With Sarah Keys,
What's his name?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
And he was a very, very debonair chap.
Yeah.
You know, very wealthy. He'd made himself a fortune.
Cecil Parkinson?
Cecil Parkinson,
Yeah.
thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to him all the way through the lunch, you know, and I was desperate to ask him, what did Mrs. Thatcher say to you when she found out that you were into...
She wasn't very happy, was she?
Leg us over us with
Right.
your, a former employee, secretary. Was it Sarah Keys?
Sarah Keys,
Sarah
yeah.
Keys, that's
Very
right.
much
You know,
so.
and that you're a Rogerisation merchant. But I didn't, of course, ask him that because it wouldn't have been good manners, considering we were both guests at the same lunch. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
exactly.
but that's the sort of thing that happens at Wembley these days. It is so corporate, as you say.
It really is, yeah. Lee from Liverpool says, "Hi, Mike. Loving the show as usual. Mr. Parry, you're more likely to win the lottery than see Everton win the League Cup.
Well,
it seems very certain."
Who do you think was the best player in that game last night? Did you watch it?
Last night? Well, I don't know.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people thought Besic was, didn't they?
Well,
I didn't think it was Ross Barkley, though. I'll say that.
I tell you what, I thought Gareth Barry was terrific.
Yeah.
I thought Ross Barkley was very good. But I tell you who I don't think has got enough praise was the Everton goalkeeper, Robles, because one of his saves from Aguero was...
Rob Les.
Rob Les was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
And...
well, I mean, the question would have to be asked. We're still trying to get hold of Adrian Heath. The question would have to be asked if Rob Les plays like that, will he not keep Tim Howard out the side?
Well, should
he not keep Tim Howard out the side?
Some would say they would hope he would. You know what I mean? You see, I think what would be clever for Roberto Martinez would be to play Robles in the league game against Manchester City, which comes up a week on Saturday. I'm not sure if it's a Saturday game, but it's the weekend after this one, right?
Yeah.
Because then, if he has another good game at City, then psychologically the City players think this man's become unbeatable.
Yes.
Can't beat him, you know what I mean? He's like a devil between the sticks.
Yeah. And that's what you need, isn't it?
Of course, that's what you need.
Whereas
you know.
if you've got Tim Howard there, there's always going to be that question mark, isn't there?
Well, not only that, but I mean, they know everything about Tim Howard. They've been playing against him for years. They know not a lot about Rob Les. Now, what are you telling me about red wine?
Well, there's a story on the front page of one of the papers this morning saying red wine, W-H-I-N-E. And apparently the head of the UK health business has basically come out and said, forget about all this business that it's good about cutting the risk of heart disease, stopping weight gain, slowing memory loss, and even preventing cancer. Red wine is none of those things, and actually it is very, very bad for you. So if you drink a lot of red wine, which I do, I have to say, you have to, I mean, but I never drank it because I thought it was supposedly good for my health anyway. But they're now saying that the report is going to tell women to drink no more, tell men to drink no more than women, slashing recommended limits to more than 3 halves of beer a day, despite a lack of scientific evidence for the move. Supposedly the myth of red wine was that it stops you getting fat. That came from Washington State University. It prevents cancer, it halts memory loss, it stops insects from biting you, cuts diabetes, cuts heart disease, makes you live longer. The
You're saying it does none of those
chief
things
medical
now?
officer, Dame Sally Davis, is now saying that all of that is a myth.
Really?
It's all completely and utterly a load of old cobblers.
So what about all this, the Mediterranean diet, which includes, a glass of red wine a day and all that kind of stuff?
They're basically saying the report will send a clear signal that the dangers of drinking are far more than previously thought. But is this not just another one of those reports like we talked about last week?
Of course it is.
When we were on the H&J slot, where basically they just want people to stop drinking.
I mean, look...
They're trying to discourage you from drinking anything at all.
Let's be absolutely honest about the consumption of alcohol in our profession.
Right.
I mean, there are some people that we work with who drink in a day what would be the legally recommended limit for a month. Isn't it?
Well, possibly so. Certainly in our old profession.
And do it every day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you say, just storing up trouble for himself or herself, because I know a lot of women who are very heavy drinkers as well.
Right.
And in fact, they're still going strong.
Yeah.
And they're not keeling over with cirrhosis of the liver, heart disease. I mean, I've got heart disease because I inherited it from my father.
Yeah.
Only 1/3 of my heart works.
Is that true?
But I can't help that. And I just have to live with it.
Yeah.
So that is a like nature's moderator on my intake of alcohol for obvious reasons.
But the thing about these reports, right, is they always come to the same conclusion, which is basically saying
Drink's bad for you.
not only is a large amount of drink bad for you, but even a small amount of drink is now bad for you. They say the same health benefits can be more easily achieved with exercise and healthy eating, and that any of the benefits that have been claimed about red wine before are only due to men over 40 and to post-menopausal women.
Yeah. We used to have a guy who worked here, right, and sometimes when we'd had a good week or a good show or something, you know, I'd take everybody down to the pub on a Friday or something like that, and he'd always say, oh, yes, OK, and then he'd turn up and he'd have a Coke. Yeah. And this guy was about 22 or 23. Yeah. He wasn't particularly an athlete or anything like that. Yeah. He didn't have any history of alcoholism or anything like that, but he would only ever drink Coke. Right. And I said, why don't you drink alcohol? I said, I wasn't condemning him for it. I said, do you not like the taste of it? He said, oh, yeah, actually, I quite do like the taste of it. So why don't you drink it? He said, for health reasons. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I don't want to damage my health by drinking alcohol, so I stay away from it.
So he doesn't drink it at all?
Well, he said very occasionally if he goes to a wedding or something like that, he'll have a drink. Right. So I said, well, how do you know you like it? He said, oh, well, like every kid of sort of 16 or 17 at that age, we used to sneak off and go to the pub. And I like a pint of beer. And in fact, he said, I particularly like lager. I said, but you don't drink it now? He said, no. I said, for health reasons. I said, you're 22 years of age. Yeah. What do you think a few pints of lager a week's going to do to you? Right. He said, well, I feel easier in my mind if I don't.
So do you think he's one of those guys that read these reports and believed them then?
I don't know. I don't know whether he believed them or not. All I know is I think he's condemned himself to a pretty soulless and miserable development through youth into adolescence and into early adulthood if you're not in the bladderation stakes 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, you would have thought so.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and people say, how dare you? You're being irresponsible. You're encouraging people to drink booze. Yes, I am. Yeah. Because actually drinking alcohol lightens your mood. It makes you feel effervescent. It gives you a common language with other people who are bladderated around you in pubs. Pubs have great atmospheres. You have great fun out on the drink. Don't do it to excess. You'll meet other people. You'll meet girls. You'll meet partners. You'll get into a social scene. And if you decide that you are so concerned about your health and you're not going to drink, you will be a loner. Yeah. You will be
it's like the old joke,
person isolated.
It's like the old joke. It won't make you live longer. It'll just feel like it.
Yeah, it'll just feel like you're living longer, absolutely. But I thought it was a terrible attitude for a young person of his age to have.
And where is this person now?
Oh, I've no idea.
He's no longer of this parish.
Well, the guy had loser written all over his face.
He's no longer of this parish.
No, he's no longer of this parish. No. I had to make sure that we didn't let that sort of attitude spread through the company. Right. So he found himself facing the back door pretty rapidly, you know what I mean?
Here's a text from the Flying Scotsman. He says, did Porky say we'd get his eyes tested at Tesco's after slagging you, MG, for getting your glasses from there? What a plank. That he says, great show.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Now, coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk about what's going on in North Korea, but also we're going to talk about Gary Neville as well, because I don't know if you saw...
What's going on in Pyongyang?
In Pyongyang. He's not. No, he's in America, actually.
Oh, not in Pyongyang.
Valencia won a game in the Copa del Rey last night, so I thought you might want to talk about that as well.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. And the mention of Julian Fellows in the first hour there is interesting, because we are doing the quiz, are we not, tomorrow night on Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, that's right.
Which they're putting together even as we speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I don't know whether you noticed this. I wanted to mention this to you about Valencia. Right. They won 4-0 last night in the first leg of their Copa del Rey match against a team called Granada. And apparently Alvaro
Granada,
not Grenada. No, Grenada's in the Caribbean.
Yeah, Granada,
Granada is the city in the southern part of Spain.
OK, which American song has got the word Granada in it?
Granada?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Cape Granada.
I recognise the tune. What is that song?
I don't know, but it's some American comic made the song up about summer camp. You know what I mean? Right. You know, and it's a song about, Mum and Dad, come and get me. I can't stand, living on a canvas and all that kind of stuff.
Dear. Yeah. Now, how about this one from Terry in South Shields? We get politics into the show.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you will read this out, he says, but I would suggest all people on tax credits to boycott Lloyd Webber musicals. He flew 3,500 miles to vote for tax credit cuts in the House of Lords. I think he should stay in the USA for good.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? A bit political. What's that got to do with our show?
Yeah, well, because you were lauding Andrew Lloyd Webber earlier on.
Well, hang on. All right, so he's got a view on tax credits, right? So have a lot of people, and I don't really have a view on tax credits because I don't properly understand them.
Yeah.
But
I don't think anybody does.
No, I don't
It's a bit like the away goals rule in the League Cup.
It certainly is. But I think you have to admit that Lord Lloyd Webber has added so much to the cultural heritage of this country. I mean, this is a man who brought us Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Joseph and the Technicolor Coat, Evita. Yeah, I mean, this
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Jesus Christ Superstar. This man is genius personified, right? And by the way, I meant to say, I read in full the old obituaries on Robert Stigwood, who we talked about in the show last night.
Yeah.
Amazing man, an amazing man. You know, this guy arrived in this country with influenza and $3 Australian dollars in his pocket because he came from Australia, Adelaide, believe it or not. And
that's where Murdoch comes from, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. And built up this huge showbiz empire. Went bankrupt twice.
Right.
Once because...
So did he come from sort of no money at all then?
No money at all. No money at all. Did it all himself when he got here, you know, and suddenly got into, you know, he went to Soho and was a runner at a record company or something like that, you know, and started like that. But he went bankrupt the first time after making a fortune out of promoting pop groups. Yeah. He then put up the money for a film called Sgt. Pepper's, and it was about the Beatles' rise to fame in the 60s. It had all the Sgt. Pepper's music in it, and it starred the Bee Gees live, the group he was then promoting,
Is that right?
and it went bankrupt.
Right.
Nobody went to watch it.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, well, I suppose you wouldn't, would you? I mean, why would you go and see a film about the Beatles starring the Bee Gees?
Yeah, well, exactly, or whatever. But anyway, and then
he got it pretty well right after that, though.
He got it absolutely right, and he was so wealthy, he retired and lived on his yacht in the Caribbean. But then he missed his mates, so he came back to this country. He bought a huge mansion on the Isle of Wight, which had 500 acres of grounds. Right. But never invited anybody there to see him.
Really?
Had a retinue of 13 members of staff, including a female butler, for some unknown reason, and lived in isolation for the last 20 years of his life.
Right.
He was thought to be homosexual and refused to acknowledge his sexuality right the way through his life because, of course, it was in the dark days when... You know, people, including people like Brian Epstein, were very frightened about admitting their sexuality for fear that they would be ostracised within the show business world.
Well, it was still illegal in Britain.
Believe it or not, it was.
In
the 60s, it was,
enough. Now, Stephen, on the subject of Mark Wahlberg, I said Mark Wahlberg was involved.
Oh, sorry, the reason I was mentioning him, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, go on.
Was that... he was the first guy to put any money behind Lord Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice.
Oh, was he?
When they came to looking for funding for the original Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah. So you got that right as well. Yeah. So Mark Wahlberg and Donnie Wahlberg are the subject of this next tweet. Stephen says Mark Wahlberg's brother Donnie was in New Kids on the Block, and he says, I'm not proud that I know that. Which is probably true.
What's wrong with knowing that? It's a bit of cultural history.
Well, I suppose it is, but New Kids on the Block is from Boston, not New York, says Hugh Birth. Yeah, I think we knew that. And it's Mark Wahlberg's brother called Donnie, who's a member of New Kids. But Mark Wahlberg had a sort of pop career as Marky Mark as well. And he was an underwear model as well before he became this kind of all singing, all dancing comedy genius of the Hollywood,
What did you think of Danny DeVito as an actor?
What do I think of who?
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito. Oh, he was a great actor.
You know.
Get Shorty is one of my favourite films.
Is that right?
That's a great. Have you seen that? That's with him and John Travolta.
No.
Where John Travolta plays this kind of gangster.
Oh, I see.
Danny DeVito's trying to get him into Hollywood to get him to write a script for a gangster movie.
Oh, I see.
Very funny film.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure it's good. The one I liked him in most of all was a film that I'm not sure it even made the top 10 ratings and all that, but it was called Romancing the Stone.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember that?
I do remember it very well.
And it was Kathleen Turner
and
Michael Douglas, that's right. But, you know...
That was a great film.
It was a great film, but there was a real mystery, and I'll tell you what the mystery was. There was a top 10 single in America at the same time as that film was released, and it was called Romancing the Stone, and it was by Eddie, what's his name? You know, the Rastafarian singer.
Oh, yeah, Eddie Grant.
Eddie Grant.
Right.
I'm romancing the stone.
Really? Well, When the Going Gets Tough was the song that was associated with that film.
Well, I was about to say to you, when the film came out, that song was not the theme music to it. It was released separately as a single. And there'd been some copyright dispute between the writers of the song and the owners of the music, and the two never came together.
Oh, so was it meant to be part of the film then?
It was meant to be the theme music for the song. That's for the film.
Instead of which it was Billy Ocean.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, point of my story is, in that film, Danny DeVito was the small-time crook.
He was
running around Colombia, trying to avoid the police, and he was a fantastic actor. He's still alive, isn't he?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a great actor. How do you know how tall he is?
Yeah, I know exactly how tall he is.
4'11"?
Yeah, because I was once in a place called the Bellage Hotel in West Hollywood.
Oh, yes.
Where I was chasing Wham around.
Yes.
Back in the sort of mid-'80s.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there having breakfast one day, and Danny DeVito came in for breakfast.
Oh, right.
And so I actually got the opportunity to see exactly what size he was.
I see, yeah.
And he was tiny.
Diminutive.
Very diminutive.
Because the reason I mention that is, do you remember we used to have a chap here at TalkSport who was head of security called Alex.
So I do remember him.
Remember Alex?
Yeah, I do remember him, yeah.
Alex was a guy
He was forced into retirement.
Yeah, he was from the East End of London, wasn't he? You know, and,
he's still friends with me on Facebook, actually.
Is he?
Yeah. I used to like Alex. He was a good guy.
He's a good guy, head of security.
Why are you making fun of him?
I'm not making fun of him. But, no.
He used to eat an amazing amount of food.
Yeah, he was a real old cockney, you know. He'd been around for years and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he was about...
Was he not the guy that was responsible for getting toasters banned from here?
Well, because they used to set fire to things and set off alarms.
Well, I think he put some food, some toast in a toaster and fell asleep.
Yeah, well, he often did fall asleep, Alex. He had a sort of a restricted sort of energy level on the overnight shift sort of thing. Yeah. But the amazing thing about him was he was about 4'11".
Yeah.
And he was, of similar. And, of course, the only guy who had the sort of temerity to refer to him as... Danny DeVito's asleep on the front desk again. Was Mr. Brazil, of course.
Because only he could get away with it.
It was so funny.
Anne in Glamorgan has helped you out here. She says the comic who made Hello Mother, Hello Father was the late Alan Sherman.
Oh, right. Thank you very much
indeed. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, well, not really. No. But some of those American... Remember the guy who did the Walter Raleigh one, you know? He's supposed to be on the phone, isn't he? And Walter's ringing him from South America. He says he's covered tobacco, you know? And the famous line is... Yeah. What's that again, Walt? What do you say you do?
Yeah.
You stuff these leaves in your mouth, and then what do you do with them? Well, you set fire to them? I mean, it was very funny.
It was very funny, yeah. It was like Superman's dry cleaning as well.
Exactly,
it was all very good stuff. Right, we got loads more to do. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics.
If you fancy a flutter on the football, a gamble on the golf, a double on the darts, or a treble on the tennis, you're in luck. Get closer to the action every weekend with Betway's Man in the Know on the Weekend Sports Breakfast with Georgie Bingham and Mickey Quinn. Bringing you all the form on the football, the going at Goodwood, the tries at Twickenham and the overs at the Oval. Every Saturday and Sunday morning from 7 on TalkSport with Betway. Bet now at betway.com.
What makes a great January sale?
50% off?
You can do better than that.
70% off?
Come on, push the boat out.
100% off?
Bingo! It's TalkTalk's 100% off fibre broadband sale, which means exactly what it says. Get totally unlimited TalkTalk fibre broadband, 5 times the speed of normal broadband, free for 12 months. All you pay is $17.70 line rental. And you'll get our new Super Router. The offer's available to new and existing customers. So visit talktalk.co.uk now. 18-month contract and conditions apply. Price after promo, £10.
I'm giving up chocolate.
I'm giving up smoking.
I'm giving up the couch.
I'm not giving up.
Don't just give up. Give. Become a new blood donor. One donation from you can help save or improve the lives of up to 3 people. Register today at blood.co.uk.
Drive on Talk Sport, the UK's only sports-dedicated drive time with Sky Sports. The sharpest analysis on all the day's action from the giants of sport.
Shane Warne is with us on the show. How you doing, Shane?
G'day, guys. How are you?
Laser-guided comment and rapid reaction from a nation of sports fanatics.
Into the corner of the net.
Drive home with Darren Gough and Adrian Durham.
Who else?
Weekday afternoons from 4 on Talk Sport with Sky Sports, the home of the Barclays Premier League.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
You better catch your own train.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Coming up in a little while, we're going to go over to the United States of America. We're going to talk to an expert on North Korea, a man called Benjamin Young, who's at George Washington University, which you may remember from your time there.
Of course I do.
Now, a couple more on New Kids on the Block. Kirsty says, New Kids on the Block are still going strong, touring to this day. I've been an avid fan since 1988.
Good God.
And VHP says,
sad life.
Dear Porky, New Kids on the Block sold over 80 million records.
Really?
Not bad for a band that lasted 3 months.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, they did do well indeed. Now, listen, you are permanently in awe of my lifestyle, so much so that
are you talking about me?
Yes, I'm talking about you.
Why can I be in awe of your lifestyle?
So that, well, you constantly try to ridicule, my standards in life.
Right, but what makes you think that means that I'm therefore in awe of you?
Well, because you hide your admiration behind what you perceive to be a wall of mockery and derision, you see. Now, I want you to...
So what specifically do you think I admire?
You admire the fact that I've got my life so together.
Your frequent trips to Wetherspoons for their awful food.
Yeah, I don't mind, admitting these sort of things because they do very good fish and chips and all that. And you call me a snob all the time. You're
they've got a competition where you can win your weight in steak for the year.
No, I didn't know.
Somebody tweeted
would
at me.
Would I want to do that?
Well, I don't know.
But look, I want you to look up on your pad or whatever you call it there.
My iPad.
Yeah, my new fashion trend.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting into. I'm getting into new shoes to replace my slippers.
Right.
And they're called the babouche.
Babush?
Babouche. And these are the latest trendy footwear.
Babouche slippers?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely, right.
They're Moroccan?
They're Moroccan, yes, they are. Yeah, they hail from Morocco.
You get pointed ones?
Yeah, they are pointed. The ones I've got are pointed.
Great.
I could bring them in if you like, but I thought, well, that'll just mean you taking a picture.
Are they like those?
Mine are yellow, actually.
Yellow?
Yes, yellow.
You've got yellow ones?
Yeah, I've got yellow ones.
The ones I'm looking at are actually quite elegant. Yeah. They're black and they look as if they're made of leather.
Yeah, mine are yellow, and it says in the leaflet that comes with them.
Yeah.
Crafted,
the leaflet.
Yeah, crafted by Moroccan artisans. Sorry, what's your problem?
What's crafted by Moroccan? Where did you get these from?
I got them because they are very comfortable and they were recommended to me.
Right.
Crafted by Moroccan artisans, worn by Bedouins for more than 1,000 years.
Really?
That's why they're so good.
Why don't you get some new ones instead?
No, you idiot. I mean, what I'm saying is that they're so good that for 1,000 years human beings have been wearing them.
They're not like these kind of like gold and silvery ones, are they?
No, they're not. No, they're just yellow.
Oh, here's a yellow pair, like that.
Yes, like those. Yes, that's right.
Why'd you choose yellow?
Well, I don't know. I was seeing the colour that I sort of liked, right?
Right.
Now, and there was a little history leaflet with them. So, crafted by Moroccan artisans, worn by Bedouins for more than 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And the Bedouins knew what they were doing when it came to footwear, believe me.
I imagine they did, yeah.
They became trendy in Paris.
It wasn't raining much where they were, was it?
What?
It's not raining much where they are, is it?
These are indoor shoes.
Oh, they're indoors, are they?
You don't wear them outside.
They're outdoor slippers as well, then.
No. These are indoors.
Oh, okay.
Indoor slippers.
Well, what are you replacing them with? I mean, what kind of slippers did you used to have?
I used to have like leather slip-ons.
Right.
But I decided they were just like a bit too fey. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, the new ones, the babouches, right?
I'll have to send this out on Twitter, I'm afraid, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do. I have no shame, you see. You see, the problem with you is you don't want to reveal your lifestyle to people.
I tell people about my lifestyle all the
parts of it.
time.
But
I'm always
right?
putting out pictures of what I do
Now-
when I'm away at the weekend.
Now-
You don't do that. People are always asking, why doesn't Porky post pictures of where he is and what he's doing?
Why should I?
Well, because people are interested in what you do.
I don't want to
invade
people's lives at weekends.
No, people don't believe you do what you do because you never put any pictures out.
No. Now, well, I was learning to use the new camera on my new phone, actually, last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Now, until I learned how to use it on the
How do you spell this?
non-alcoholic wine.
B-A-D-O-U...
No, B-A-B. They're
B-A-B.
babouche.
All right.
B-A-B-O-U-C-H-E. Now then, what I was going to say to you was, because I did some research on it, they're worn by Bedouins for 1,000 years. Then they became trendy in Paris during the 17th century.
Right.
And were resurrected in that same city only as recently as last year by the Celine designer and fashion oracle Phoebe Philo.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Have you?
No.
Okay. Now, guess who else wears these around the house?
I can't imagine.
Victoria Beckham.
Does she?
Victoria Beckham... So what's your problem?
He's wearing the same slippers as Victoria Beckham.
Well, why not? Why not? Isn't
When
she?
did you suddenly become some kind of style icon?
Hang on, isn't she the trendiest sort of fashion person in the world?
No, I don't think so.
And if I'm wearing the same
No, I don't think
slippers
she
as her, then you won't be able to mock him any longer, will you?
Yeah, of course I will.
Now then.
You see, this is how pathetic you are. You think that because somehow Victoria Beckham wears them,
Yes.
I will be in awe of them.
Yes.
And I'll think that, these must be the greatest slippers of all time.
Well, I just think if my neighbour ever knocks on the door again and I'm wearing my babooshes, you know what I mean?
What, the woman who gave you that the snowballs?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Then she's going to think I'm right up there with it, you know what I mean?
Well, is that what you want us to think?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
I do, yeah. Now then...
Do you think that after having observed you for the best part of the last 5 years, she lived opposite you,
Yes.
she might have formed a different opinion?
No.
Like, for example, why does he have a prison door outside his house?
No.
Which I don't have.
It's a white ornamental gate.
Does she have one?
Which is beautiful.
Does she have one?
No, but I offered to get her one, actually. I said, look, if you... And do you know what she did instead? She said, I'm not sure that, I can live with that. So she put 5 locks on the door instead.
Well, a lovely neighbourhood you've got.
Right, well, there's no need.
I'll tell you what happened to me tonight. It was something weird.
It's got very, very low crime rate. Yeah, go on.
Well, I mean, supposedly low crime rate where I live as well, right? But at one point or other, I was having a little nap early part of the evening.
Ooh, a little nap.
A little nap, yeah. Well, because I do take sleep. Right. I'll tell you later why sleep deprivation is actually going to cause you to have dementia even earlier than you will get it anyway. But I was having a little nap early to prepare for the show tonight. And I was aware of knocking going on outside. There's 3 flats on my floor, right? Yeah. And I could hear a knock on the door.
You're not next to a knocking shop, are you?
No, I'm not next to a knocking shop. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I heard a knock on the next door. Then I heard a knock on the other next door. And then I heard a knock on my own door.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I never open the door anyway. Because
neither do I.
Nobody ever comes to see me that I don't invite to come to see me.
Exactly. If I haven't invited somebody to come round, then they don't get in.
But if somebody's actually inside the building,
Mm.
even less reason for me to do
Exactly.
it. There was another knock, and then I didn't really think any more of it. It all went away. Went out to leave to come in here tonight, and there was a sort of a leaflet stuck in the door, basically, when I opened it, and it looks very dodgy to me. But it's claiming to be from the police. Claiming to be a sort of
a warning.
No, a warning saying there's been a burglary in the area. If you know anything about it, please ring this number.
Really?
And then it talks about make sure that you copy down all your serial numbers from your various devices. Then it gives a website address.
Yeah.
And it's photocopied in a very, very bad way. I think I brought it in actually. I'll bring it in to show you. It looks very, very.
It sounds very odd.
Unreal to me, shall we say?
And what are you supposed to do with this leaflet?
Well, I mean, the leaflet suggests that if you know anything about this burglary, which they say took place between 7:30 and 7:15 in the evening.
Yeah.
Doesn't say where, and it gives a police number to ring, but it looks bogus to me. But I'm slightly worried.
Well, can you work out what the motive for this bogus leaflet is?
Well, I can only imagine the motive for the bogus leaflet was
to get people to open their doors.
To get somebody to either open their doors and then become a victim.
Well, why would they leave the bogus leaflet if they didn't think there was anybody in the house?
Well, because it might be a scam to get people to try and sign up for some website or other. I just don't know. Just don't know.
Sounds very dodgy.
Strange.
I'll tell you now.
So where did you get these slippers from anyway?
I just acquired them.
What do you mean you acquired them? Did you buy them?
Yes.
From a shop?
Yes.
Online?
No.
Where?
I visited Debenhams the other day.
Did you?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And were you looking for slippers or did they just catch your eye?
No. I was looking for some trendy new sort of fashion things for the summer.
Trendy new fashion things for the summer?
Yeah.
But so you were in the men's department?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Did you buy anything else?
No, because the trendy new fashion wear for the summer hasn't arrived yet.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'm not buying any,
What did you have in mind?
I want
a sort of slacks?
Yes, some slacks and some... I want a new
How about
sort of...
a shirt that's a different colour to the ones that you've got?
I want a new casual jacket, sort of thing with a big collar and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Right. Like a sort of a sports jacket?
No, not a sports jacket. Something that you wear loosely, as if you were walking down, on the Epsom Downs or something like that.
I don't know what kind of jacket you mean.
Well, I don't mean a jacket. I mean a coat sort of thing.
Why don't you get a barber?
Barbers are rather boring.
Boring.
Yeah,
but they do a lot of different kinds.
Yeah. B, they classify you as completely detached from real life.
Really?
You're a member of the middle classes.
Why is that?
And I'm not.
Well, what do you think you are?
Me?
Yeah.
Man of the world.
Man of the world.
I'm man of the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you get a donkey jacket?
Well, I might do. Listen, I haven't just telling you about my babooshes yet.
Yeah.
Now, guess how much they cost?
40 quid.
Oh, no.
Well, that's what it says on here.
No.
Well, you didn't spend more than that, did you?
Well, I did, but I didn't buy
for
the top
a pair of slippers.
I didn't buy the top of the range one.
Well, how much did you pay?
The top of the range one, the Celine version.
Celine Dion.
Well, it's just called the Celine version.
Yeah.
£500.
500 quid?
Yes.
For a pair of slippers?
Yes.
You have totally lost the plot.
No, I didn't pay that for them.
So what did you pay for yours?
I didn't pay 500.
You paid how much?
Well, more than I paid for the last pair of slippers.
Well, I don't know how much you paid for the last pair of slippers.
My last pair of slippers, which my mum bought me for Christmas, were, I believe, £14.99.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Well, according to this piece that I've got here on babouche slippers, it says the black leather ones were like 40 quid.
No, the ones that you can buy, the high-range ones, are much more expensive than that.
So you paid more than £40 for a pair of slippers?
Yes.
What an idiot. You are a complete maniac for slippers.
So. No.
Only you would spend that kind of money on slippers.
Well, you don't know how much I spend.
That's ridiculous. Well, you spent more than 40 quid.
Yes.
Somewhere between 40 and 500. I reckon it's about 100.
175. What's your problem? What's your problem?
175 quid.
Only went in there to get a pair of slacks.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Now, we're going to talk about far more important things coming up because we're going to find out whether North Korea's got the hydrogen bomb.
Good idea.
This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, of course. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Porkyvision coming up with a slightly new format, as promised earlier by Mr. Parry. Right now, though, time to talk about some very important world matters, because yesterday morning, around about 4:30, I would say, the news came through that the North Koreans had, they said anyway, exploded some kind of hydrogen bomb. Since then, the Americans have said we're not sure that that's true. There was some kind of earthquake as a result. Let's talk now to Benjamin Young, who is a student of Korean history at George Washington University and contributor to nknews.org. Benjamin, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hello, Benjamin.
No, we haven't got him yet. Benjamin.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Benjamin.
Sorry. I don't know whether you were able to hear what I just said, but there seems to be some confusion at the moment as to whether the North Koreans have in fact exploded a hydrogen bomb or not.
Yes, there is some confusion. The White House has questioned whether it was an H-bomb or a small atomic bomb. And in fact, we may never find out because they conducted the tests under the ground.
Right.
But the North Korean state-run media proclaimed that it was a successful H-bomb test, but the North Korean media has a habit of making grandiose claims. Some nuclear experts have said that it was a small atomic bomb or that it was some sort of a boosted nuclear device.
Right.
Either way, the fact that North Korea has conducted 4 nuclear tests since 2006 is worrisome, and it should concern the international community.
Right. I mean, how much do we know about what sort of capability they have? Because, I mean, I got a tweet earlier on from someone who's actually based in Tokyo who said that, you know, it's around this time of year that there's always some kind of activity coming out of Pyongyang, whether it's missiles being fired towards the Japanese or whether it's the, firing something the other way towards South Korea. There's always some kind of almost attention-seeking behaviour from Kim Jong-un's administration. Is there any relevance to that?
Well, North Korea loves attention. It wants to be on the front page of the news. And it also wants to show off its nuclear development. And this is important for its foreign policy as well as its domestic policy. Kim Jong-un does not want to be seen by his people as being weak. As you probably are aware, North Korea is an economic basket case. So Kim's legitimacy is directly tied to North Korea's military prowess, not economic reform. And the North Korean people need to know that their sacrifices are worth something. And so when their media boasts about their nuclear program, you know, it's kind of a substitute for filling their stomachs in a way.
Right.
Benjamin, isn't the problem with anything that comes out of North Korea that they are such an erratic regime that their leader is so unbalanced in his view of life outside North Korea that we really don't know what to believe? And some experts have said today that they don't believe this was a hydrogen bomb experiment because there's no trace of radiation emanating from the area where it's supposed to have happened. So they might be lying about this as well.
Yeah. A common misconception, I would say, is that North Korea is irrational. I would argue that it's very rational and that it has seen what happened to Gaddafi and his regime in Libya. Gaddafi gave up his nukes, and now he is 10 feet under the ground. So I think North Korea pays attention to the history of nuclear states, and North Korea is not going to denuclearize, and its legitimacy is tied to being a military first state. And North Korea, since day one, its ideological goal has been reunification of the Korean Peninsula under the flag of the DPRK, which is the official name of North Korea.
Yeah.
And so I think there is, we should be aware of that, and we should be aware that North Korea is a military first state. I mean, it removed all traces of Marxism, Leninism in their constitution recently. So there's this old-fashioned Cold War lens of seeing North Korea as being a Marxist-Leninist state, but it really is a military first state.
Well, you say it's a military first state, but that's all it is, isn't it? Because 90% of the people in North Korea are starving, aren't they?
Yes.
So what's the point of a country like that? I mean, I know you can't answer that, but all I'm saying is a guy who runs a country where 90% of the population are starving, I mean, he must run the country as his own private club. So he's got plenty of food and wine and brandy, and he can, have as many girlfriends as he wants and all that, because he is simply the very worst and foul dictator on earth. So why don't we just go and get rid of this guy? Because I'm sure we've got people around who can get into North Korea and rub him out.
So the issue is that the major powers in Northeast Asia are fine with the status quo there. China benefits from having North Korea as an ally because it means U.S. troops are not near their border.
Yeah.
And Russia likes to, put a thorn in the side of the United States. And South Korea isn't exactly ready for reunification because they know they will have to foot the bill.
Sure.
And that's going to be a huge expense.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is also concerned about footing the bill as well, and is concerned about the potential of war. So North Korea can be a bit unpredictable at times, but the international community, in a way, benefits from the present status.
Yeah, but that's an immoral stand for the West to take, because if 90% of people are starving in North Korea, and people laugh at me every time I say people in North Korea are so hungry they eat bark off the trees in public parks and that kind of stuff, and it does happen, apparently, according to reports I've read from people who've been there, then surely the West is immoral to just allow this guy to prop up his regime, on spending all his money on the top 1% of people, while the rest of the country's starving. How can we take a stance like that? How can we say, yes, we supported the Arab Spring to get rid of horrible dictators like Colonel Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein, and allow this guy to go around inflicting misery on tens of millions of people?
I agree with you that the North Korean state is absolutely deplorable. And after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, North Korea had a mass famine. Around 1 million people died, and that's what. And
exactly.
during that period of time, people were eating tree bark. There was even reports of cannibalism. But they called this the Arduous March. And after it ended in the late 1990s, the economy actually did improve. And while there are definitely some North Koreans starving, and malnourishment is still a major issue there, people aren't eating tree bark there in great numbers. The economy is still a basket case, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was in the mid-90s.
Well, I guess what Mike's saying, though, in a way, Benjamin, is that there is a kind of double standard at work here, isn't there? Because if it was in the interest of the West to do something about this, if it was in the interest of the West to treat North Korea as anything other than a slightly annoying kind of, rather underpowered economy and underpowered military state, they would do something about it, which we've seen them do in various other parts of the world. But as you say, it sort of suits everybody's purpose just to keep this guy a slightly eccentric, slightly strange figure who likes watching Rambo films and drinking expensive cognac, and basically treating his people like serfs.
Yeah, and we should do something. I think Obama has concentrated on Cuba and Iran during his presidency, and it's clear that his policy of strategic patience when it comes to North Korea has not worked out. And the international community, UK, Russia, China, and the US being the key players, need to come together and actually enforce harsh sanctions on North Korea. China is key in this partnership, as sanctions have no bearing on North Korea if the Chinese continue to not enforce them. So I think China is key in enforcing these sanctions, but they also benefit from having North Korea as a troublesome ally because they do not want a unified Korea, because in all likelihood, a unified Korea will be pro-American, and there may even be U.S. forces stationed right near China.
Absolutely.
So,
Benjamin, sorry, just to take a slight tangent, but you've mentioned him, President Obama. You're an observer of all things political in America. How did the American people react to seeing their president cry in public? I know it's supposed to be because the tears of compassion for children who've been massacred, but he cries about a lot of things, Mr. Obama, and that doesn't, to me, give the image of the strength that a president of the United America needs to have.
Well, that's what a lot of Republicans would say here. But I think the gun issue in the United States is just, I think it's so divisive. And I appreciated him shedding some tears yesterday. And I think the Sandy Hook massacre was really a turning point, because that's when the U.S. just said, you know what, we let school children be slaughtered, and that was okay with a lot of people here. And I think that's really, really awful. And so I'm glad that he shed some tears and that he's taking some action on the issue of guns, and that he's a proponent of gun control. But that is a very divisive topic in the United States, and I know that many fellow Americans would disagree with me.
Okay, lovely.
It's a fascinating subject.
You.
Thanks very much indeed, Benjamin, for talking to us. Benjamin Young there from the George Washington University. Interesting that he says that they've now stopped eating bark off the trees because
no, he didn't say that.
Things have improved to such an extent.
He didn't say that. He said not as many people are eating bark off the trees.
I thought he said nobody was anymore.
No, he said there was a bit of a revival in the economy.
There's no bark left
since the 90s. No, there is. He said quite specifically, because I was listening, because it's a subject in which I'm very interested.
Well, it's good you listen to some of the things that go on this show.
He said
what I say.
He said not as many people are eating bark off the trees these days as used to, but they are still eating bark. Believe me, I know. I read the observatory reports that come out of that country. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed. We've got loads more coming up. Porkyvision is not that far away.
It's not that far off.
I've got some appreciation of your slippers on Twitter that I'll be reading out to you as well. This is TalkSport.
All I want is a room somewhere.
The best ever DFS winter sale is now on, with every sofa in our stores on sale. There are more styles than ever, and for a limited time, you can enjoy special introductory savings on many sofas. Everything comes with 4 years interest-free credit with nothing to pay for a year. Which sofa will you fall for in the best ever DFS winter sale? Represent APR representative.
The best sports news, exclusive interviews and unmissable opinion in this week's Sport magazine. Download your free sport-filled iPad edition now.
Get in-depth previews, stunning photography and exclusive video content. Sport magazine is now available in iPad, Kindle Fire HD and Android editions.
Sport magazine. The weekend starts here.
Happy New Year. Happy new holiday allowance. The British Airways World Sale is now on. Choose from hundreds of destinations around the globe. Sale ends February 2nd. Book now at ba.com. Terms and conditions apply.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast on Talk Sport with the Ford Ranger. It's the breakfast show that doesn't compromise on delivering the biggest names from the world of sport.
That's the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast every weekday morning from 6 a.m. on Talk Sport. Don't miss it.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6 on Talk Sport with the Ford Ranger. Ruthlessly tested across the harshest terrain on earth. Find out more at ford.co.uk. Talk Sport.
He finds the corner of the net.
Extraordinary stamina, energy and skill. Get your tickets now. Talk Sport.
Does this ring any bells with you?
It certainly does. This is the Harlem Globetrotters, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you know why this is, don't you? You know why we were talking about this earlier. This guy, who was the most famous Harlem Globetrotter ever.
Meadowlark Lemon.
Meadowlark Lemon, absolutely right. His funeral was this week, right?
Yeah.
And he was the man who really created the Harlem Globetrotters.
They're still going, I presume, aren't they? The Harlem
Well, they're still going, and they're still touring the world, although I haven't seen him in this country for a number of years, have you?
Yeah,
I can't remember them being here recently.
No, but I think I remember when I was growing up, there used to be a cartoon series. There was all sorts of TV stuff that they would always be doing. They were more than just a sort of superstar basketball team.
I totally agree, but you used to see him live at the Wembley Arena and all that sort of stuff. Do you not remember?
Right.
I remember seeing this guy because he wasn't the tallest of them of all. He was quite small.
Yeah.
He was 6'3". Most of them were about 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah.
But he had such incredible control of the ball. He used to be able to roll the ball off his head, down his shoulder, down his back, down his thigh, onto his lower leg, and then flick it back up onto his head.
Right.
But
I guess this was also before the days of the massive, money that's now available in the NBA. Where one of the things that they're saying about football over in the States is one of the reasons that people don't get into football, particularly at an early age.
Yes.
Is because there's so much money in basketball. Lots of kids want to get into basketball because that's, billions and billions of dollars can be made.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Harlem Globetrotters were the only wealthy basketball team in the world because they were like a showbiz lot, you know what I mean?
Right.
But he played more than 16,000 games. He lasted 22 years.
For the Harlem Globetrotters?
From the Harlem Globetrotters,
yeah.
16,000 games. And he was known as the Clown Prince of basketball, OK?
Yeah.
I didn't know the Globetrotters were formed in 1926.
Really? That long ago?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But they only started playing exhibition matches in the 50s.
Yeah.
And they toured as far as Africa. They were hailed as heroes. Lemon was convinced that they did more for the perception of black people around the world than almost anything you could think of. So he saw himself not just as a basketball
as a sort of ambassador.
Yes, that's right, but for black empowerment and civil rights. He had 10 children. Right?
Yeah.
5 sons and 5 daughters by the same wife. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. Well, it's not that amazing.
It is amazing.
It's quite
That's
a remarkable
amazing.
story.
I mean, people like Rod Stewart have got like 7 or 8 children or something, but usually by 2 or 3 wives or something like that. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good as well.
North Carolina boy he was. Yeah.
And so, I mean, presumably when they came out of the basketball world,
yes,
they were coming out of teams that were still professional teams, but they just weren't in any way as wealthy as they would have been if they were doing it now.
No, absolutely.
So
You're
who do they
absolutely
play
right.
then? If they come over here, do they just play sort of teams? I suppose they can play teams in Britain and teams in Europe who aren't that good.
I think normally what they do is they play an invitation team.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So it would be like, do we have an Olympic basketball team?
We do have an Olympic basketball team.
You sure?
Yeah.
What, in the UK?
Yeah, of course.
Well, who are they?
Yeah,
Who's in
because
it?
there was one guy I remember playing in the London 2012 Olympics who played in the NBA.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he played for one of the teams like Detroit or Chicago or something like that.
Well, I mean, I suppose we play against them, wouldn't we? Or something
there
like
are
that.
basketball leagues in this country. They're just not what you would describe as particularly good.
Do we have a basketball league?
Yeah, there are basketball leagues here.
Name one basketball team in the league.
I can't.
No, neither can I.
But I know guys
They
that
can't
used
be
to.
very famous,
but I know,
can they?
Well, they know it's not a big sport here. But I mean, we did have an Olympic team in 2012.
It's massive in America.
It is,
and I can't stand it.
But that's because of the money. Well, it's one of those things. Even when I was living there,
Yeah.
you only ever watch. I mean, I used to start watching the basketball when it got to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And as I sometimes would watch it on here. Actually, it was overnight. You'd watch the playoff games. You'd only really watch the last quarter.
Yeah,
because
well,
that's the really interesting bit.
But the scores always went from sort of 23, 22 to 27, 26, and then 31, 29, all the way up to 118, 116, 119, 117. I mean, it was just like that. It was ridiculous.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Well, what I'm saying is it was a game that was designed to, Team A scores at that end, then Team B scores at that end, then Team A scores,
well, that's the theory.
then Team B scores, then Team A scores, and there was never, ever a game where one team wiped out the other team by 120 points to 5.
Well, not by 120 points to 5,
Exactly.
but if they built up a lead of maybe 15 or 20 points, it could be.
It was
could
very,
be. I mean,
that's
it'd
very
be quite
unusual.
an exciting game if you watch it right up to the end of the final sort of buzzer going.
I've no idea why some of the highest paid sportsmen in the history of sport have been basketball players.
Well, why do you think? It's because of all the TV money.
Well, of course
That's
it's
the
TV
point.
money. What I'm saying is, for me, basketball for young kids is more like a fashion show than a sport.
Yeah.
Because you find them wearing the vests,
Well, some of the
shorts.
highest paid sportsmen in the world are people who
I
play
know.
basketball in the States.
I know. Who's the highest one? The guy from Chicago Bulls.
There was Shaquille O'Neal, wasn't there?
Shaq O'Neal.
Yeah.
That's right. It was a guy.
And there was Michael Johnson.
Marvin.
Michael Jordan.
Magic Johnson.
There was Magic Johnson. There was Michael
He
Jordan.
got AIDS, Magic Johnson.
He did, yeah.
He was the first sportsman to come out to admit he had AIDS, and everybody panicked and said, well, you can't play against him, he might bleed, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there was a lot of ignorance around about AIDS in those days. I've got a pair of very expensive basketball boots.
Basketball boots from where?
From Nike.
What do you mean, Air Jordans?
Well, I don't know if they're called Air Jordans or not, but I bought them by mistake.
Right.
I thought they were a normal pair of, walking trainers.
Yeah.
And it was only, I didn't try them on.
Yeah.
And it was only after I bought them.
Why do you buy things you don't try on?
Well, because I think it takes too much time.
What do you mean it takes too much time?
I can't be bothered.
If you're going to spend a lot of money, I mean, presumably you tried these slippers on before you bought them.
No, I didn't know.
Well, how do you know they fit you?
Well, they do.
What size are they? 7.
No, they're the 10.
Well, your slippers you got the other day were 7 and you got into those blue and white striped ones.
Yeah, but they didn't fit me. I've given those away.
Have you?
Yes.
You didn't tell me that.
Yes, I've given them away.
You're not wearing them?
No, of course I'm not wearing them before. They had tassels on them, they're a pair of girls' slippers, I think.
All right.
But anyway, no, the point of the story, I bought these basketball boots, and they're brilliant, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge, great things. But the first time I put them on, I looked ridiculous, because they're designed for...
Well, that doesn't normally stop you wearing whatever you wear on your feet.
I'm not going to react to that sort of thing in future.
What are you wearing tonight, by the way, on your feet? Are you wearing a pair of Nikes?
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Yes.
With the white swish stripe.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Have they got ties or Velcro? Oh, they've got ties.
I don't have Velcro, you idiot.
Yeah, you normally do.
This is a relatively new pair. I think I bought these about a month ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's the first time I've worn them, because the first time I did wear them,
Yeah.
I wore them without... I wore them with shorts. I only had a small pair of socks inside. You know those little socks you can get that don't come up your ankles?
Oh, the ones like the tennis players wear?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. No. The ones that just go into your shoe.
That's what I mean, yeah.
They don't come above the level of your shoe.
Women's tennis players wear
Right,
those.
okay, yeah, fine. And I went for a walk down the Solent. When I came back, I was bloodied.
Really?
Because the backs of them, see, they've got high arches at the back, you see?
Right.
See there?
What, you mean the heel?
Yeah, the heel, yeah. That had rubbed into my...
So they have blisters?
No, I had open sore wounds. What's your problem?
Well, blisters, you mean?
No, they weren't blisters.
Well,
they were
what were they
worse. Well, they'd been cutting into my feet without me noticing, because I have...
Did you feel any pain?
No, I didn't. I have a rejection of pain in my brain somewhere, and I didn't realise that I was walking along while my ankles were bleeding.
Yeah.
It wasn't my ankles, actually. It was my Achilles heel.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
me.
so I had to wear them in gently to to make sure it didn't happen again.
Right.
Which is, of course, is what I've done. Now, what are people saying about my...
Well, Becky here says, man of the people spends £149 on new slippers, sure is representative of the people of the UK, i.e. the aristocracy.
No.
Lee says, Mike Porky Parry spent that much on his slipper fetish, so his brother-in-law will let him into the slipper madhouse in Bournemouth.
Well, no,
That would be very impressive if you turn up with a pair of £200 slippers, wouldn't it?
but I wouldn't travel with them, would I? They're for my home. You don't take your slippers with you, do you? Unless you're a bit of a nutter.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you would take your own slippers to a lot of places. I mean, Andy says this. He's found a pair of very nice Moroccan black babouche slippers on eBay for $26.99.
$26.99?
Hashtag more money than sense.
Yeah, but they'd be imitation.
No, they're real.
No.
They're the same ones that I've found.
They can't be. They'll be imitation ones. They won't be the real babouche. They won't be the ones that Victoria Beckham's wearing, will they?
Well, I don't want to wear the same things that Victoria Beckham's wearing. Frazzle says this. I have to say, I'd only pay £145 for them if each one came lined with 7 tenors.
Yes.
Which is fair enough.
Lined with what?
7 tenors.
What do you mean?
7 £10 notes.
What would you put £10 notes in your slippers for? You're mad?
Well, if they were worth £140, that's the only way he would buy them. That's what he's saying. He says it's an absolute and utter waste of money.
Right, now then, we have Neil here, who sent us a really sensible note, which we like getting sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is an excellent observation. Neil says, I thought the North Korean expert was fascinating on the Two Mike show. Excellent questions, too, from Mike Parry.
Only you would read that out.
Excuse me.
Why do you have to say that? Your questions should be excellent.
Even the tree bark eating relevant.
Yes.
Okay? Oh, that's a brilliant... thank you, Neil. That's a
but why do you always
tweet.
have to read out these tweets that sort of big you up all the time?
No, it doesn't big me up. It's just an observation. Just an observation.
Here's one from someone who doesn't give a name. He says, hi. He says, I'm going to my first basketball match on Saturday night to watch Worthing Thunder. I hope I can get a large foam hand. P.S. I enjoyed my 2 Mites DVD that I received for Christmas.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you very much
So there you go. So you can support the Worthing Thunder
well,
if nothing else.
Let's get down there. I went to Worthing once. I was invited to a...
Isn't that the place that Andy Murray got in trouble for?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. He recently said, a wet Sunday in Worthing.
Yeah.
It's actually quite nice. And I'll tell you what happened. I was asked to go and address a St George's Day lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on April 23rd.
St George's Day is April, isn't it?
April 23rd.
Yeah. Will you do that this year, do you think?
Well, if somebody wants me to, I'll be open to offers. In fact, we'd be open to offers, won't we? If people want us to go to St George's Day lunch,
if you get asked, maybe maybe we should both do it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they were very keen to have me, and I was in those days doing the 10-to-1 show. Yeah, probably with Andy Townsend, I think. And anyway, so they sent this Range Rover, this 4x4.
Yeah.
And I said, look, guys, I'm not going to be there till 2 o'clock. I said, finish here at 1. I said, the earliest going to be there. Oh, don't worry, we've got a very fast car to pick you up. So it turns up, we get down to Worthing. A very nice little town.
Right.
With I remember a very nice shale beach. Which
all the beaches down there are shale.
Oh,
really,
yeah. And the thing is, the beach wasn't detached from the road, if you see what I mean.
How do you mean?
Strangely, well, you can walk down the main drag on the edge of the town.
Yeah.
And on one side is a road, and the other side is a bit of grass, and then shale, and then the beach. You see what I mean? It was like that.
Well, Hastings is like that.
Is it?
I mean,
Okay,
if you walk along the pavement, you can take one step to the left off the pavement, and you're on the beach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. But anyway, so I went to this hotel to do this dinner, and it was an all-male affair. And I do not like all-male affairs.
No, me neither.
I find them overbearingly...
tedious.
Testosteronic, if that's the word.
Well, it's not, but I know what you mean.
And do you know what happens?
Sort of slightly boorish as well at times.
Boorish, braggardly. Yeah. And what happens is, blokes who wouldn't say boo to a goose in front of their wife suddenly come out, fill themselves full of ale, and they want to be the Jack the Lad of the whole meeting.
Right.
Except you've got 200 of them.
Yeah, right.
You see what I mean?
But then at 7 o'clock they all say, we've got to get home to the wife.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they become completely different figures.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these are the kind of people who go mad on bachelor nights and stuff like that,
Is
right?
it? Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that because, not because I've been on many, but these are the kind of people that behave very differently in a group of all men than they do when they're with women.
Yeah, but also what I most objected to was I had to give a St George's Day rallying speech, why this country is so great, and all that kind of stuff. That was fine. That was not a problem at all. And it wasn't a political right-wing rally or anything like that. It was like, why I admire Lord Nelson, why Winston Churchill, means so much to this country. My father fought in the Second World War, all that kind of stuff, because it was our patriotic day, St George's Day.
Yeah.
But I was followed by a bloke who was the filthiest comedian.
Yeah.
I've ever come across.
Really?
I was revolted by his material.
Yeah.
All the other guys who'd had a few pints and all that, holding their sides, rolling around on the floor, and isn't this funny? And a lot of it was misogynistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really...
Makes you feel uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable indeed.
Yeah.
It was making fun of women and all that kind of stuff, being very rude and, offensive to women and all that kind of stuff. And in fact... They gave me afterwards a signed Brighton and Hove Albion shirt, which, funny enough, now hangs in the home of Miss Robin Schonhofer.
Oh, does it?
Well, she's a Brighton fan.
Schonhofer.
And yes. Sorry?
Schonhofer.
What did I say?
Schonhofer.
And I said,
blue
look...
and white stripes like your dressing gown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, look, Ron, I said, they're very nice to me. The actually organisers themselves are very nice guys, they're very respectable and all that. And they gave me that. It was a lovely shirt. And she said, oh, yeah, thanks. So I gave it to her. But I wrote to the organisers later and I said, although I was very grateful for the invitation, and I told them how much I objected to the comic.
Right.
And
what did they say?
They wrote back and they said, we totally agree with you. We don't know who hired that guy, but we're not having him again. And next year, we're not having a comic. Thanks for your advice, Mike. We've taken on board what you said. So I thought I was good. I thought
it's very good to see you standing up for the rights of women. Very good for you standing up against misogyny.
Exactly.
Because quite often, and maybe unfairly, you yourself get labelled as a bit of a misogynist.
I don't know why.
Well, because of the fact that you're a benevolent sexist. We've had this conversation before. You don't mean to be sexist about women, but some women would regard your attitude to them as a bit old-fashioned. That's all.
Well,
but it's not mean. It's not horrible.
That's because I try to be polite.
Yeah.
Now then, Soon Tell here says, I used to love watching the Harlem Globetrotters back in the late 1960s through the 70s on TV. So did we all, Soon Tell.
Yeah, we certainly did.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on this morning. Got one here from Gerard in Pershaw again, who texted us in the other night on 81089. He says he's really enjoying the show. He says, just a point on Porky slippers. He says, I know it's important to get comfortable shoes for our feet, but £175 for a pair of slippers. I paid that for 500 litres of oil.
Yeah, well, you can't put 500 litres of oil on your feet, can you?
That's true, no. But you can warm your house with it. Anyway, well done to the Toffees tonight, and I hope Lukaku is not out for too long. He says, I'm a West Ham fan of some 40 years now and would love another chance of a trip to Wembley.
Yes.
And then he says, if ever you guys go on tour, I will come and enjoy the evening, which I'm sure will cost me a lot less than a pair of Porky slippers.
It certainly will. Now,
well, we have been on tour. We were on tour all last year. We will be on tour again this year as well.
We will indeed. We're drawing up plans for that right now. Now then, Bill sends a picture of literally what he says, here you are, Porky, here's a pair of loafers. And it is actually 2 loaves hollowed out like a pair of slippers.
I saw that, yeah.
That's rather good, isn't it?
Remarkable.
I mean, if you think of 2 loaves like sort of big...
like baguettes almost.
Baguettes, yeah, big baguettes. And then cut it down the middle and off to provide the back of the slipper, and then hollow out the front of the loaf for the front of the slipper. It's very good.
Yes.
Michael Morgan here, now he's having a go. How can a man of the people justify paying £175 for a pair of slippers? The man has absolutely lost the plot.
Yes.
You are a plank, Porky.
Yeah, I think that's true, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, I think everybody should be able to have a pair of slippers of this quality because, you know, feet are very precious. If you lose the ability to stand on your feet, then you've lost your mobility.
How's your calf muscle?
Well, it went a bit tonight. I was in the office and I was dodging around 1 or 2 things and trying to get out of the way of somebody.
Well, it's not easy at the moment,
causing a nuisance.
Because also you've got to keep dodging around different bits of furniture while they rehouse various things.
We're having a bit of renovation in the office, aren't we? So it's not good for the old the calf. But anyway.
But I mean, Mr. Motivator stuff quite helped you the other day, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I'm been practising a bit of that tonight, actually. Now then, a few more here. Says, a lot of people are alluding to the fact that it looks like the suit worn by Banana Man, and why didn't you buy the rest of the suit? Why have you only bought the shoes?
Yeah.
See, very rude comments, these.
Some people are very rude, it's true.
Yeah.
Marcus says, Lul Deng is British and plays in the NBA for the Miami Heat, and he is pretty good. I think he's the guy that played in the Lul Deng.
Lul Deng.
L-U-O-L.
Well, is he of sort of Oriental extraction?
Well, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
But he plays for the British basketball team.
Well, I've got one here.
Team GB.
From Hobbits. This is from Becky, isn't it? And she says, tell Porky the Surrey Scorchers play in the UK Basketball League. Their home court is in Guildford, only a short drive for him.
Well, maybe you should go and watch them and see what it's like.
I find it boring. I can't stand basketball. I think it's dreadful.
Right.
And when I go past a house where I see a basketball ring on the side of the house or something like that, I think that poor child has been Americanised to a degree that is unnecessary and told that, you know, playing basketball makes you groovy and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
if it's a sport that kids are playing, then anything to get the kids out playing something. I mean, a lot of people have a basketball hoop. I mean, I've got a basketball hoop in the garden that the kids just sort of throw the ball into from time to time.
They've got a basketball?
Yeah, they've got a basketball as well.
They're pretty heavy, those basketballs.
They are very heavy,
They clunk you on the head.
The size of medicine balls.
Yeah, you've got a problem.
You've got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of tweets here from 2 people, both in Scotland. One says Edinburgh Rocks are a British basketball team. Another one says Glasgow Rocks are a basketball team.
Oh, really?
I can't believe both of them exist.
No, I can't either.
But Anonymous says they play their home games at the Braehead Arena, which I know well.
Yes.
And they get big crowds over 4,000.
Right, yeah,
which is not bad.
I see, yeah, well...
Bigger than a lot of football games.
As you say. Now then, of course, you got completely bladderated over Christmas and New Year. I'm not saying on any one specific day. I would imagine for most of it.
Really.
And what I wanted...
Actually, over New Year, I didn't at all because we were working.
Yeah, we were, exactly.
I was in bed at about 1:30 on New Year's Eve, having not really had very much to drink at all.
Right, well, that's very good.
Yeah.
Now, if you did get bladderated, I have found a remedy.
Have you?
It's a new clinic opened in London, and it's specifically to help people get over last night's excesses.
Is this the place they're going to open up where you can go and get oxygen treatment and all that kind of thing?
Well, I've seen the menu because somebody sent me one and said, you'll love this. And you literally call in there on your way to work if you've had a really heavy night.
Because I think we talked about this when they were talking about setting up, so they've actually now set it up, have they?
Well, yeah, they have set it up. And what happens is you go in there. Now, one of the treatments, for instance, is called... They've sent me a menu of treatments.
Right.
And one of them is called the Royal Flush. And for a Royal Flush...
Why have they sent you a menu of treatments? Do they think that you might be a suitable case for
Well, you get all sorts of garbage, don't you, on the internet and all this kind of stuff, you know, and it's saying, you know, Mr. Parry, we, you know, great admirers of your lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, thought you'd be interested in this, you know. And so you literally go there on the way to work. Now, these are called Drip and Chill clinics, right?
Go on.
Drip and Chill.
Drip and Chill,
The Drip and Chill clinic.
This is where they hook you up to some kind of, I suppose it's a salination or something like that.
No, you're absolutely right. You can have the Royal Flush, and that is a £340, 340. You're supposed to pay that on the way to work to get yourself fit for work for that day. Detox cocktail of B12 vitamins, anti-nausea medication, and an anti-inflammatory mixed with a saline solution injection.
Saline solution?
Saline solution.
Well, because the big problem of why you get hangover is because you get dehydrated, right?
That's right, yeah. Now, what they do is you actually sit on a couch for 20 minutes and they stick this in your arm, the anti-inflammatory mixed with a saline solution, and they put it into you on a drip. Now, I mean...
How long is this process supposed to take?
20 minutes.
Oh, so if you go to work at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning,
right, yeah,
you pitch up at this place at about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly, or 8:15 or something like that, and you have the detox and all that, and then all of a sudden, from being incredibly hungover and nauseous and feeling like death and wanting to go home at lunchtime, you feel better than you ever felt in your life.
Do you think that'd be good for you, though, to have a sudden sort of ingestion of that sort of stuff?
Well, I'm about to say, I wonder whether there are any doctors around in these places so that when somebody walks in... I mean, I imagine the effect of if you had an overload of alcohol in your system.
Yeah.
I mean, like really huge. You know, you'd drunk 3-4 bottles of wine the night before.
Yeah.
A couple of whiskey chasers, something like that.
Yeah.
Is it wise then to start trying to clear it all out your system so rapidly?
Well, I wonder if it is. I mean, I prefer the old-fashioned route, which is basically if you wake up and you feel like death.
Yes.
You basically don't get out of bed for a while if you don't have to, and you recover by virtue of eating quite a lot of sort of what you might call high-carb food. So you're up for a big breakfast, or you order some Chinese food, or you get some Indian food in, and by the end of the afternoon you feel fine.
You feel fine.
Yeah.
Well, what it says here, and the narrative here, is it is designed to eradicate the hangover. And the only way to do this is by direct delivery of liquid into the veins, a process which rehydrates 45% more efficiently than swallowing liquids, swallowing like orange juice.
Just drinking loads of water or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Presumably these health people would say to you, that would actually probably encourage you to do it more often as well.
Yeah.
And if you knew that why not just set up something like this in your house? Where you could just know that.
Well, you couldn't set up your own drip, could you?
Well, you probably could.
Administer your own drip into your own arm.
You probably
that's asking a bit much, I think.
You probably could. I mean, if you were of a medical, if you knew somebody who was medically trained, you could probably do it.
Yes.
I just think what I'm saying is that if you knew that you could go immediately and get a hangover cure, which was instant, you would be more likely to get a hangover, wouldn't you? And not worry about getting a hangover.
Yeah, I suppose you
know what
would.
I mean?
Anyway, there is an assurance that trained nurses are on standby at all times. That answers the thing about what I said about a doctor.
Yeah.
And before inserting the vein into your right arm, you will be given an anaesthetising spray.
Right.
So you won't even feel it.
Right.
So anybody who's a bit squirmish about needles...
Well, if you're that hungover, you wouldn't feel it anyway.
No, I suppose you wouldn't, yeah.
You've never given blood, have you?
No.
Because, giving blood makes people very squeamish.
Yes.
And I once gave blood, and they obviously prick your thumb first to give your blood a quick test to make sure that you haven't got any, sort of communicable diseases.
Right.
And then once they've done that, they lie you down on a sort of a dolly.
Right.
And they stick quite a big needle in your arm.
Ooh, don't talk about dolly. That's the sort of thing they put criminals on before they inject them with death.
I must admit, I didn't feel like I was being executed.
Yeah, well...
But the fact is that you lie there, and you don't really watch what's going on.
Right.
But an immense amount of blood is then drained out into a bag.
Yes.
A pint of blood, which is quite a lot of blood.
Yes.
And you do feel quite sort of lightheaded afterwards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's it's obviously a good thing to do, and lots of people should do it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, they've got medical experts who say things like the body, especially the liver, does need to recover after a lot of alcohol. And shots of intravenous vitamins is one way of going about it,
Right.
But I don't know. I've read a few reports, like you get on the internet, about whether it works or not. And one person who had it done said that they suddenly went incredibly cold after they started taking the intravenous drip.
Right.
Cold liquid pouring rapidly into my veins. My body temperature dropped and I began to shiver. Began yawning and could easily have fallen asleep on the hospital bed on which I was lying, which would have kind of negated the attempt to get yourself fit for work, wouldn't it?
It certainly would.
And you have to be wrapped in blankets to do it.
Sounds a bit too complicated.
Yeah, but
a bacon sandwich normally does the trick.
Yeah, a bit too risky.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah.
Now we're not far away from Porkyvision,
Okay.
and of course coming up in the next day's show, it's Porky Quiz Time, and that's going to be on Downton Abbey. This is Talk Sport. Loads more coming up.
Laying off the bickies? Unlikely. Actually using your gym membership? Good luck with that. Putting a bit of money away? Finally, a realistic resolution. Thanks to the Tesco mobile sale, you can get £36 off a Samsung Galaxy J5 at just £15 per month. And it doesn't even require sacrifice or willpower or any of those horrid things. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
£36 is the device cost saving over 24 months. Sale ends 31st January. 24-month credit agreement at 0% APR representative with Tesco Mobile required. Subject to availability and status. Terms and charges at tescomobile.com.
Everyone knows that all the best things come in threes. 3 Amigos, 3 Stooges, 3 Lions. And right now, if you sign up to 888 Sport, you'll get treble the odds on your first bet. Join 888 Sport and harness the power of 3 with treble the odds on your first bet. New customers only, minimum £5 bet to qualify, maximum £10 bet at treble odds. Bet at normal odds, extra winnings added within 72 hours, extra winnings paid in cash. Maximum extra winnings capped at £5,000. See site for full T's and C's.
18 plus. As every sports person knows, timing is everything. It can be the difference between standing on the podium and going home empty-handed. It can be the difference between a sweet first touch that finds the corner of the net and the missed kick that ends up in row Z. And when it comes to hereditary hair loss, timing is vital as well. Because the earlier you start using Regain for Men Extra Strength Scalp Foam, the higher your chances of success. An estimated 7.5 million men in the UK experience hereditary hair loss, many of them before they're 35. But fortunately, Regain is on hand with all the information and support you need to help you separate the facts from the fiction. If you've noticed you're starting to lose your hair, you need to understand exactly why it's happening and what you can do about it. And now Regain has an app that gives you support and advice to track your progress and maintain your twice-daily routine. Download the Regain for Men iPhone app from the App Store today and start separating the facts from the fiction at regain.co.uk. Regain contains minoxidil. Always read the label.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Ankle, doesn't he?
He
Just
does.
as he scores it. He's okay when he scores it.
Yeah.
And he takes a couple of steps towards the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And then he seems to just sort of plant his left foot, or his right foot rather, in the ground in front of the goalkeeper to stop himself running into the goalie.
That's right.
So it shouldn't be too terrible an injury, hopefully.
I mean, he scored his goal with a header, so
Yeah.
I thought, he must have done it, but he landed from the header. But in fact, he didn't actually take off for the header. He just stretched.
In fact, it was terrible defending.
Yeah, it was terrible. He got between two defenders and just picked the ball out. But yeah, now that song, right?
Yeah.
Bill Withers.
Yeah.
Lovely Day.
Yeah.
Great song.
It is a great song.
Great song.
Makes you feel sort of sunny, doesn't it? Makes you think of the summer.
Yeah, as well. But I mean, I can relate it to a particular girlfriend I had in those days. I remember it was her favourite song as well. So, you know, songs always carry memories. Brenda.
Brenda?
Yes.
Oh, I've not heard of her before.
No. Yeah,
Brenda.
Lovely girl, yeah.
Very nice. Was it in Chester?
No, it was Newcastle, and she had lovely dark hair and everything.
Oh, right.
But anyway, here we go.
She wasn't the one who had the fisherman boyfriend up in...
No.
Kirkpatrick.
No, that was Helen.
Helen?
Yes.
Well, she was in Newcastle, wasn't she?
Hey?
Wasn't she in Newcastle?
That was during my training period,
right.
but then I came back to the Chester Chronicle for 18 months and I went to Newcastle to work.
Oh, I see.
So I had 2 Newcastle experiences, okay?
Right. Excellent.
Now then, the reason I'm playing that is because how long have I been telling you that I get up at 4:30 every morning?
Well, I mean, when you're working, you're still awake at 4:30 every morning.
Well, yes, exactly. But I mean, you know, when we used to work the mid-morning show, I was also up at 4:30.
Yeah.
At weekends, when I don't see, I'm always up at 4:30.
Yeah.
And that's because
even now, you're normally up tweeting or something, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Because I often tweet out at 4:30. You say, right, I'm just going out to feed the ducks.
Yeah.
And people think, well, you're mad. It's dark. Well, it doesn't matter. Ducks can feed in the dark.
They can.
Especially if I've got my miner's helmet on with a light on it, and they can see
You
I'm
haven't
coming.
got a miner's helmet.
I've got a device with a light on it.
Have you?
A strap.
What, that you wear on your head?
Yes, you have to, because it's so
Why?
dark, you might fall in the pond.
Well, you just have a torch like a normal person.
Yeah, because you look like a burglar, don't you, when you got a torch? And anyway, you can't hold a torch.
Well, yeah, like you would look totally normal if you've got like a light coming off your head.
Well, you can't hold a torch and feed the ducks at the same time. You need 2 hands to feed the ducks, okay?
Yeah.
And so you can't put the duck on. You can't put the torch on the side. The ducks will panic and all that kind of stuff.
Not surprised, but I mean, they recognise you, presumably, the ducks, do they?
Of course they do. They flap around a bit when they see my car coming. You know, they recognise me. Till I get a new car.
Was there a problem when you got a new car?
Yeah, there was. Yeah. For
They
about
don't
a week,
recognise
they
that.
didn't recognise me.
Well, did I tell you I got my car windscreen wiper fixed, by the way? It wasn't, one of our...
was it a blown fuse?
It was only a blown fuse, yeah. So I found this guy around the corner from me and he fixed it for £10.
Well, you see, once again, our listeners have helped us correct our lives.
They have.
Because it was a listener who actually
who said it might well be
a fuse. Don't worry about it.
I can't remember who it was, but thank you very much, whoever it was, because it was only a tenner.
Yes, excellent. Good. Now then, guess what somebody sent me? They sent me a book, and it's called The Miracle Morning. And it's all about getting up at 4:30 and having the day to yourself. And if you go to work and you're expecting to work at 7:30, it's still a brilliant idea to get up at 4:30.
What if you don't work till 10, though, or something like that?
Well, you still get up at 4:30 because you've got all those hours to do things.
Right.
For instance, a lot of people do yoga at that time in the morning because they find it so peaceful.
Yeah.
A lot of people write and meditate, right, before going off to work, and they arrive at work in a fantastic mood,
Yes,
okay?
right.
Now, this is called Miracle Morning. It says... ask any early riser and get a similar annoying to the uninitiated degree of enthusiasm about the benefits of their morning routine.
I agree that there's a great deal of things that can be done in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously slightly different now because of the way that our lifestyles are figured out and the way that time is of the essence. When I get home in the morning, I'm usually asleep. But last week, for example, when we were working in the afternoon, I found I had loads of time in the morning to do lots of things, and I was very productive, much more productive than normal.
I totally agree. This idea of the lie-in and all that kind of stuff is totally alien to me.
Yeah.
Why would anybody want to be lying in bed when the sunlight is up, when the day is broken, when there are things to do out there, and you're lying in bed? I don't get it.
Mind you, sunlight at the moment isn't up until about 8 o'clock, is it?
I agree, it's not. But, in the summer I'm talking about, I mean... sometime, in the profession that we're in now, you can work all sorts of hours.
Yeah.
It's a 24-hour business, and so you can work all sorts of hours. And what always annoys me and irritates me is when somebody comes off a breakfast show.
Yeah.
I remember we had a newsreader here once, and she came off a breakfast show and was going off to do another show somewhere else.
Yeah.
And she said, it'll be fantastic now to be able to have a lie-in. And I thought, why would you want to lie in? Why do people want to lie in bed when they get out of bed?
You want
and
to lie
do
in if
things?
you're tired. It depends what time you go to bed as well.
Well, get to bed earlier. If you're working on a breakfast show, you should be in bed by 9 o'clock in the evening anyway.
Yeah.
As Mr.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not somebody.
Night.
But you're not somebody who sleeps terribly much anyway.
No,
right?
I'm not.
I mean,
I
when
agree.
you used to do the breakfast show with Mr. Brazil.
Yeah.
I mean, what time did you go to bed? Did you go to bed at 9 o'clock? I bet you didn't.
No, I used. You'd watch a lot of football and all that for the tomorrow morning show, and I was in bed by 10:30.
Yeah.
And I get up at 3:30.
Right.
And then the car used to come for me at 4:30, and that was the way the day went.
Right.
But what it says here is that when you've started appreciating what you can do in the mornings, right? The things you can do are these. You can have silence or meditation, which makes you a better person altogether. Silence is great, by the way.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than silence.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in the house on your own, people panic and think, I'm going to switch the telly on.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch the radio on. I'm going to ring a friend or something like that. They simply cannot endure silence.
That's not a problem for me.
Not a problem for me at all.
I like silence.
I like silence.
Yeah.
Silence.
That's why I don't like people knocking on the door.
Silence
which breaks
is
the
golden.
silence.
Who sung that?
Silence is golden.
Silence
it was
is
around about the
golden.
Hollies time, wasn't it?
Tremolos.
Tremolos.
The
okay.
Tremolos.
All right.
And who was in the Tremolos?
I can't remember.
Chip Hawkes.
Listen, I'm not as old as you. I don't remember all these people.
And who was Chip Hawkes' son?
Are these the people who are currently in court?
Yeah, I think they are,
We
actually.
shouldn't talk about
in
that,
Chester,
Yeah.
actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, right.
And who was Chip Hawkes' son?
I don't know.
Chesney Hawkes.
Oh, really?
And what did he sing?
I don't know.
The one and only.
Okay.
You are my one.
This is all a complete mystery to me.
Anyway, listen, let's go on.
Have you got anything from like the last 10 years we can talk about?
Listen, well, Chesney Hawkes pretty modern.
Pretty modern?
Pretty modern.
I don't know. When was the last time Chesney Hawkes had a hit?
About 25 years ago, I think.
25 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the people listening to this show weren't alive.
Yeah, all right. Now, listen. So you get...
I'm listening.
You get silence or meditation.
Yeah.
You get affirmation.
Affirmation,
Now,
yeah.
affirmation's a brilliant thing.
It is.
What is it?
Do you
then?
not get affirmation from others, though, or do you get affirmation from yourself?
From yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you can affirm any number of things from yourself.
How do you define affirmation?
Well, I suppose if you were to talk about affirming things on your own, you would be sitting there basically agreeing that whatever it was you were doing was the right thing, and you were basically mapping out whatever it was that you were going to do.
Yeah, but in this day and age...
and giving yourself a kind of pat on the back.
In this day and age, you switch on your computer, you switch on your laptop, and you start checking things out that you've been worrying about overnight, and you get affirmation of the day ahead.
Well, you see, that depends on whether you worry about things overnight, which I don't.
Every morning I get up, I get on my computer, first thing I do, check my bank account.
Right.
Because I like to feel
you check
safe.
your bank account?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Which one?
All of them.
All of them?
Yes.
Well, that must take about an hour.
Well, no, because of funny enough, because of the wonders of technology, they're all on the same page.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You know, I mean, when I say
Well,
they're
so
all
when you say you check your bank account
Yeah.
to make sure nobody's stolen anything out of it?
Well, I just check them to make sure it's all there.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can feel secure in the day ahead.
Right.
Because although, obviously, each bank account has detailed information in it, the end product of how much is in that account,
is what you're looking
it's just
for.
there.
Yeah.
And it's just a list of bank accounts and
Right.
the numbers, you see.
Yeah.
And I think, that's okay, I'm all right. You know,
I did that. I don't do that every day.
Yeah.
But that was when last month I did it because for some bizarre reason, the credit card company took 2 payments out of my account.
Right.
And I suddenly thought there was a lot more money in my account than there was showing. And I went, blimey, I thought somebody had been at it.
That's the thing, you see.
So, in fact, if I hadn't checked it, I wouldn't have known that.
Well, this is it. I do it every morning without fail.
Okay.
So that's affirmation. Visualisation, okay?
Is that sort of trying to visualise how the day is going to go?
Absolutely.
Yeah, see,
You're
I'm quite good at
quite
this.
right.
Yeah.
You sit there for 5 or 10 minutes and you assess what have I got to do today, and then you assess how you're going to do it, the order in which you're going to do it, how are you going to overcome the problems that are going to be in the way of you doing those things.
Okay.
Right?
But is that not going to be a problem if those things then don't go according to plan? Are you not then setting yourself up for, this is now a panic time because the plan is all getting messed about? So you get to, say, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I see what you mean.
As your visualised plan is falling apart,
no.
you might start worrying.
No. Then you've got to cope with the problem. Then you've got to react to the problem.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this part of the morning is where you visualise it and try and set up the plan.
Okay.
Of course, the plan will go wrong during the day.
Yeah.
All sorts of things go wrong. Your car breaks down or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you have to react to it.
Yeah.
But you visualise how the day's going, and then you've got a plan for the day.
Okay.
Exercise. It's the best time of the day to exercise.
Yeah.
Now, I don't suppose you do any exercise,
I don't
do you?
know.
No, exactly.
Well, other than going up and down a lot of stairs.
Yeah, well, I do.
What sort of exercise do you do?
I've still got a bull worker, and I give that 10 minutes in the morning.
Do you?
Okay, yeah, I do, yeah. What's your problem?
I can't see it.
What's your problem?
I can't see it.
I do.
So you're in a blue and white dressing gown with your £155 slippers, yellow, from Moroccan peasants.
No, by then I've got my shorts and T-shirt on.
Have you?
That's my sort of workout gear, you know what I mean? Yeah. Right, and...
how much time have you taken so far, then, with all this?
Well, I don't know, about an hour the whole
About
thing
an
takes
hour?
or whatever. Now, also...
You haven't been out to feed the ducks yet?
Hey?
You haven't been out to feed the ducks yet?
No, I haven't, no. Right, reading, and particularly reading inspirational material. Okay?
Well, like all your journals?
Yeah, journals, literally, my journals and information, all that, right? And then, and this is so important, scribing.
Writing.
Writing in your diary.
Yeah.
Now, do you not fill a diary in every day?
Of course I don't.
I do.
I'm not 11 3/4. My name's not Adrian
Well,
Mole.
you see, once again, if I do anything which you think is not what you do, you just get insulting and just throw it back at me.
Well, no, I don't
know
write in
why.
a diary.
I don't know why you have this.
Well, I
bizarre...
don't know why you're always insulting me either.
I
But,
don't know.
if you want to completely reshoot our relationship, then we can have that conversation.
Why you have this bizarre urge to everything I say to say, oh, how immature, how childish, how different, how strange.
I don't say that about everything you
but
do.
You see, I don't run with the pack, mate.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that song by Steppenwolf, I Wasn't Born to Follow? Right?
You sure it was by Steppenwolf?
No, it was by that...
it was in Easy Rider.
It was in Easy Rider, and it was by that American sort of folk group,
Was it
the Harmony
Byrds?
group. The Byrds, that's the one. You ever heard that song? See, that's me.
Yeah, of course I have. I actually have a vinyl record of that song.
Right, now listen,
We're out of time now.
Now, that's 6. That's the 6 things. Each one of those...
Well, what do you put in your diary?
I put in my diary things that I've done the day before, which I have to do today.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Because then tomorrow when I scribe, fill in my diary, I tell my diary how successful the plan was.
Really?
Or how
So
successful...
does it start Dear Diary?
No, don't be silly.
Well, it might do. I don't know.
Don't be mad. No.
Why wouldn't it be?
I just give myself marks out of 10 for my performance from yesterday. What's your problem?
That's bizarre.
What's your problem?
Because it's bizarre.
Why is it bizarre?
Because you think that I'm critical of you, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way that I feel about you personally.
Yes.
The only reason I'm critical of you is that me and everybody else listening to this understands how bizarre your world is.
No, because if you don't mark
You
yourself...
give yourself marks out of 10.
Yes, I do. If you don't mark yourself on yesterday's performance, right?
Right.
How can
what did you give
improve...
yourself for yesterday
How
today?
can you improve today? Yesterday was about a 7 or 8. It wasn't
7 or
bad.
8?
Yeah, it wasn't
So
bad.
have you ever given yourself less than 7?
Yeah, because Monday was a poor day. I only gave
Was it?
myself 4 on Monday.
4?
Yeah, because
Why?
I think it must have been the aftershock of coming back from the day shows last week to the night shows again.
Right.
I didn't get things into gear
Blimey.
properly and all that
Very
kind
hard
of
on
stuff.
yourself,
okay?
aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. But each one of those should take 10 minutes, right?
So you give yourself minus points for being late on the old radio show?
No, but that's 60 minutes, right? That's 1 hour. That's your first hour of the day.
Yeah.
If everybody followed that, we'd be a better world.
Yeah. I'll give you 3 out of 10 for stopping talking on time. Coming up next, though, it's time for Porkyvision.
On DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Coming up tomorrow, of course, is the Porky quiz, which is going to be on Downton Abbey. Right now, though, that music signals that there is one thing that is about to happen, and that is the great TV review that is Porkyvision. Unfortunately, Porky seems to have vacated his position here in the studio, though, so we'll just have to wait until he returns. Obviously, he wants to make sure that he's got all of his materials ready, and so he's now here.
Absolutely.
And we're about to begin what you described earlier as a slightly newly sort of revamped Porkyvision.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you tantalised us earlier in the week with the talk of War and Peace.
That's right.
Which seems to have been the most written about show so far this year, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, War and Peace. Now, brilliant first episode, you see. 6 episodes of War and Peace. Now, have you ever read War and Peace?
I don't think I have.
Right, well,
no.
I have, you see, and you've got to read War and Peace to be able to appreciate this.
Have you really?
I have, of course I have.
No, I don't mean have you really read it. I mean, have you really got to read it in order to appreciate the TV show? Because most people watching it will not have read War and Peace.
Well, okay.
It's a very long book.
Okay, yeah, most of them probably wouldn't have done. Now, what this show's all about, right, is the creation and fall of a dynasty in Russia when they still had a royal family.
Yes.
And lots of wealth and all that kind of stuff. So what happens
during the time of the Tsars.
During the time of the Tsars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I suppose that's right, yeah. Now, what happens is, the hero is a guy who's... The actor, his name is James Norton. Okay?
Right.
And he plays Beluga. Beluga.
Right.
And he was...
sure that's his name?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Beluga just sounds a bit kind of... Polish, really.
I think it's bazooka, actually.
Bazooka.
Right. I think it's bazooka.
Right.
Now, the point is, this guy, James Norton, is going to be the next big heartthrob.
Is he?
Because he was last seen. Remember in Porkyvision, I reviewed a show about a vicar in Cambridgeshire who became a detective.
Yes. And he worked with some guy that was not a vicar,
useless detective who was that Geordie guy, the professional Geordie, who goes around sea fishing and all that kind of stuff. You know, Robson Green.
Robson Green. Yeah.
So this guy, and previously he was in Happy Valley.
Right.
When he was in Happy Valley, this guy, he was a nasty criminal who went around kidnapping young girls and raping them.
Okay.
So
it's the same guy?
The same guy.
He now plays
His name's James Norton. He now plays Bazooka.
Okay.
And Bazooka is a hero, rides off on a horse and a charger. See, what happens is, and everybody will know this who's read War and Peace, is that Russia is suddenly at war.
Yeah.
And
this is prior to the revolution, right?
Oh, it's a long way. This is 1805.
Yeah.
Revolution didn't happen until 1919.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Russian Revolution. Now, what happens is the war is between Russia and I think it's Austria.
Is it?
Russia and Austria.
The Austro-Hungarian Empire, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
the Habsburgs.
The Habsburgs, probably, yeah. And they go around blowing each other up, which is, like, you know, okay. But because, you see, what happened in those days...
And is it sort of the battleground is on the west, what you would call the Western Front
The Western
of Russia?
Front, the Western Front.
I guess.
The battleground is on the border with Austria and Germany, right? Because they're allies. They're allies, right? Now, the problem is, the situation is that when wars took place in those days, a bit like, the American Civil War, the battlefields were a long way from where people lived peacefully.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, you never had a battle in New York.
Yeah.
Never had a battle in Washington, D.C. as such. But you did have battles in places like... Lynchburg. And in places like Charleston. In North Carolina.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, while one scene shows all the men going off to war to be blown up, a lot of them got blown up, and the horses got blown up as well.
They didn't come back.
Hey?
They didn't come back.
Well, we don't know yet, because it's only first episode, so I suspect some of them won't come
So is it
back.
full of battle scenes, then, this show?
Oh, just a bit of it.
Yeah.
Most of it is Rogerising.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, everything that I've read, particularly in the papers this last couple of weeks, has been all about the sex.
No, well, it's not, you see. There's not enough sex in it, in my view.
Right.
And it's a bit smutty, because there's one sexual relationship between a brother and sister, which is rather tasteless.
Well, it is rather
I don't like
incestuous.
I can't stand all that, you know what I mean? But they kind of do it in a sort of, faux sort of arty way, you know what I mean?
Well, they always do.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what they always do with these costume dramas, and they try and pass it off as drama.
But anyway,
actually it's just titillation,
the costumes are very good. There is a lot of Rogerising going on. But the hero is a guy called Pierre. And he's a blundering idiot.
Right.
Now, he reminds me of you, if you don't mind me saying. He's got a fat face.
Russian?
He's a Russian. They're all Russians. They're all Russians. This is St. Petersburg, by the way, not Moscow.
Right.
So he's got a fat face. And he's the clown.
Right.
And all he does, he goes around getting absolutely bladderated all over the place.
Right. And what are they drinking? Are they drinking vodka?
Oh, loads of vodka and stuff. And he tries to impose himself upon women who laugh at him because he's a fat goon. Okay?
Yeah.
But,
well, that's where the association with me ends, then.
Well, that's actually why I associate him with you. It's Fat Goon.
Yeah,
now,
but the women don't laugh at me, though.
Now what? Eh?
Women don't laugh at me, though.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about the relationship between you and women. Now, what happens is he's treated like a clown and everybody's disdainful towards him.
Uh-huh.
But then, the guy who is the head of the family...
Sounds like the mafia now.
No, he's the head of the family.
family.
Yeah, he dies.
Right.
Now, the thing is...
And is he related to Bazooka or to this other guy?
No,
Clown?
Pierre.
Right.
Old Pierre...
Right.
Is...
This is for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Yet.
Old Pierre... we then discover is the illegitimate son of the old guy who's died. And the old guy who's died is like a billionaire.
Okay.
I mean, he's a real billionaire. You know, in those days of, he owned like mines, gold mines. He owned industry in Russia.
Right.
He owned half of St. Petersburg property.
So he's not a member of the royal family necessarily. He's a sort of entrepreneur or something.
Entrepreneur, something like that.
Right.
Now, he dies, but because he's fallen out with all his legitimate children...
Yeah.
who've all deserted him during their lifetime or been killed in battle or something like that. Pierre's the only one left, except that there's a load of cousins around who tried to stitch Pierre up by inventing a false will, and they try to make out when the old fella's died. But the old fella asks for my bastard son, before he dies.
Yeah.
And the bastard son is this clown Pierre.
Right.
So he goes to see his dying father. On his deathbed, his father says, I love you and all that.
Right.
And
presumably it's known that this guy is the illegitimate son. This has not come as a surprise.
Yeah, it's
to
known
anyone.
he's the illegitimate son, but it's not known that the whole of the fortune of the family is going to be left to the illegitimate son.
Yeah.
Because the father actually liked him as his favourite, the only one he trusted.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening is all the others have been scheming around, drawing up false wills, leaving all the money to them.
Right.
But in fact...
So nobody knows what the real will is.
Well, the real will is hidden in the old fellow's bed. And one of, his, relatives, who's a woman, finds the will in the bed and says, everything's been left to Piers.
Right.
So Piers then becomes the toast of St. Petersburg.
Piers?
He's the richest man.
Piers is?
Yeah, the richest man, the clown. Pierre is,
right.
Pierre.
Right.
So Pierre, who was a guy who was stumbling around, getting bladderated, trying to impose himself on women who were laughing in his face, who basically, couldn't add up 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Suddenly the toast of St. Petersburg, richest man in St. Petersburg.
So everybody wants to know him.
Everyone wants to know him. So, meanwhile, the other guys, including this hero fella, James Norton...
Yeah, where's he in all of this?
They've gone off to war.
Oh, OK.
He was the son of another nobleman.
OK.
But they had this strange sort of nobility in Russia. If you're the son of a nobleman, very wealthy, and you could have just gone and farmed the lands and all that, you didn't. You went and found yourself a white horse, put on a really elaborate uniform, and galloped off towards the Austrian guns.
Presumably it's all about pride and
all that kind of stuff. This is why it's called War and Peace.
So this is all happening in the first episode.
It's all happening in the first episode,
right?
And
sounds jam-packed.
And jam-packed, it is indeed.
Is it good? Is the question.
Well, you see, I didn't think there was enough fighting action.
Yeah.
All you ever saw was a horse with very mad eyes. Got blown up by the Austrians.
With mad eyes.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah, seriously.
Right.
There wasn't enough Rogerisation because the only bit that was really intimate was this brother-sister thing.
Which made you feel squeamish.
Can't stand all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But there was a lot of bladderisation, including a group of sort of rascals, a bit like the old club that David Cameron used to belong to.
The Bullingdon Boys.
The Bullingdon Boys, who go around St. Petersburg and they pick up some low-life scumbag, right?
Yeah.
Who's languishing in the gutter somewhere,
right?
And then they go to the zoo and get a bear,
right?
And they tie the
bloke. Zoo in those days.
They had zoos,
quite
they had zoos.
Thinking.
And they tie the low-life guy to the back of the bear,
right?
And then they throw them both in the River Volga.
That sounds shocking.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course the bear panics a bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
has he got mad eyes?
Well, yeah. You'd have.
He would have.
You'd have mad eyes. You were thrown in the river tied to some low life, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then the bear escapes, and sort of, the whole idea is that the bear sort of turns his anger on the low life and sort of
eats him.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's a bit
quite savage.
Yeah, a bit savage that. Yeah, so there's a bit of that involved and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's lots of very good-looking girls.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Don't know who they're going to be getting Rogerised with or by, but there will be somebody there who'll do that. Lots of guys strutting around.
Yeah.
And one bloke who is like the nasty cousin who's trying to undermine old Pierre.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Pierre.
Pierre.
Or Piers.
Piers.
One of the two.
Yeah. Turns out to be, believe it or not, an actor called Stephen Rea.
Oh, Stephen Rea. Yes, I know Stephen Rea.
Now, years ago, when I was in Washington, D.C., and I had nothing better to do, on a night when there was 3 feet of snow on the ground, and you couldn't drive anywhere, I walked over to the station, which is a listed building.
Union Station.
Which also houses the cinema complex.
Does it?
Of 8 cinemas, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So I went over there, and I thought there was nothing else to do, you know, and, a few beers, a few bit of blabberation, and I thought I'll go and see a film. And I went to see a film called The Crying Game.
Okay.
And this was about an IRA plot to murder people.
Yes.
But the guy who
got a bit of a shocking ending.
It's a shocking ending. The guy who was the hero was Stephen Rea. And he, unfortunately, was the man who slipped his hand under the skirt of a young lady who looked very attractive to the naked eye. But it turned out to be a man. And when his hand came into contact with male genitalia, he went and threw up on the couch.
Yeah.
You know.
It was as much of a surprise to him as it was to everybody watching.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
And so he's in it.
Right.
He's in it,
He
right?
must be ancient now.
Oh, he's got a face like an old leather bag.
Yeah.
Really. I
Yeah.
mean, he looks really old.
Yeah,
you
he's
know.
a great actor, though.
Yeah, he's pretty good. But the strangest thing is, at the same time, he's in the other programme that I'm going to review called Dickensian.
Dickensian?
Dickensian.
Right. Why do you say it like the Dick Emery show?
Well, it is a bit like that. It's a compilation.
Are we going to have to extend Porkyvision over the...
No, I've finished. I'll continue next week.
All right, we'll do more on the Dickensian show coming up next week. Fascinating stuff, that. War and Peace. Highly recommended by the sounds of it.
Yes.
Porkyvision.
Well, I want a bit more action, a bit more Rogerising,
a bit more
bladderation.
And a bit more bladderation, a bit more fighting as
Yes,
well.
yes.
That was Porkyvision. This is TalkSport.
Yes.
So, you've compared 40 different holidays and already bought a new pair of budgie smugglers for the beach. But have you checked for ATOL protection? Check before you book your holiday, because if your travel company goes bust and isn't ATOL protected, you could lose your money or even be left stranded abroad. Make sure you get your ATOL certificate as soon as you pay. Keep it safe and take it with you, just in case. Remember, always check for ATOL protection before you book your holiday. Check out the facts at packpeaceofmind.co.uk. ATOL protected.
Welcome to Sounds Fantastic. What do you make of this sound? Yes, that's the unmistakable sound of the great crested grebe tap dancing on a bluegrass banjo. But what about this sound?
Go compare.
You got it. That's the sound that's telling millions of people where to look for cheaper energy bills.
Don't be taken for a fool when you buy your fuel. Nothing quite compares to Go Compare.
Sounds fantastic.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast on Talk Sport with the Ford Ranger. It's the breakfast show that doesn't compromise on delivering the biggest names from the world of sport.
That's the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast every weekday morning from 6 a.m. on Talk Sport. Don't miss it.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6 on Talk Sport with the Ford Ranger. Ruthlessly tested across the harshest terrain on earth. Find out more at Ford.co.uk. Talk Sport.
Fedora, sheepskin coat, and the occasional cigar.
Oh, my word!
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
Is this that song you were talking about?
That's right.
Chesney Hawkes.
Yeah, Chesney Hawkes, the son of Chip Hawkes, you know, who, as you quite rightly say, seems to be involved in a bit of sort of legals or something up in Chester, so we won't talk about that.
Yeah, no,
but,
indeed. Somebody said sent a tweet in saying that you thought Chesney Hawkes was the son of Roger Daltrey.
No,
that's true.
No, he's the son of, well, unless something's been going on behind the scenes, but he is officially the son of Chip Hawkes. That's why he's got the same name. And Chip Hawkes was a leading member of the Tremolos, which had loads and loads of hits in the 60s. Call Me Number One. Do you remember that one?
No.
Call
I don't
me
remember. I
number
barely
one.
remember the Tremolos.
Call
You're
me
much older than I am. This is the proof.
one.
This is why I don't
I'm
know
not
any of
much
these
older
songs.
than you.
Well, you must be, because I don't remember the Tremolos that well.
I've just got a brilliant memory.
Oh, really? Bill says this. Apparently you haven't got such a brilliant memory. The main character's name is Pierre Bezukov. Not bazooka, Porky, you plank.
Well,
but he says a decent review for a change, 8 out of 10.
Well, there you go. There you go, you see. People are liking it at last. They're getting the message.
Yeah, absolutely right. Although somebody did put a point across earlier on. I think it was Frazzle, actually, who tweeted in at the two mics to say how many marks does Porky give himself on a Friday when he gets home after the weekly quiz?
Yep. Say again, sorry?
How many marks do you give yourself on a Friday when you get home from the weekly quiz? Going back to
it depends how much. It depends how much gerrymandering has been going on. Right now,
I've got. Well, hang on. Right, never mind. Right now, I've got loads more of these.
Okay.
Danny says, "How is this any different from the normal Porkyvision? Just as boring. I'll rerun this to get me to sleep when I get home."
What? Who
I think
said
that's
that?
a bit harsh.
Who said
that's
that?
from Danny.
Danny, I don't. What you've been listening to, man? You've been tuned into
Gary disagrees.
Absolute or something by the sound of
Gary
it.
disagrees. He says, "Ha ha ha! Horse with mad eyes, comedy genius, Porkyvision, much better this week. Keep it up."
There you go.
Quite a few people are saying you've got some of the facts wrong. However,
what do you mean?
William says, "Excellent review by Porky, first class. Please explain how this Porkyvision was different to any others," says Sedi. And Becky says, "Hearing something that makes sense as Porky actually watched programmes and films, very off-putting, very scary."
Well, yes, he said, I took a different approach to it. Who says, we got some of the facts wrong,
Brendan says,
and then doesn't point out what they are?
Well, Brendan says, War and Peace is actually set during the Napoleonic War and Napoleon's invasion of Russia.
Yeah.
Get your facts right, Porky.
Yeah, that's right. I told you
said
all
it
that.
was against the Austria.
The Austrians sided with Napoleon.
Well, I don't think that was the Napoleonic Wars between Austria and Russia, was it?
What?
Presumably it was between France and Russia.
Yeah, that was France, yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be Austria then, would it?
No, it's France and Austria against Russia.
France and Austria against Russia?
Yeah, exactly. That's why
sure?
they fight the Austrians. I'm certain. I know all these things. It was 1805. It was the year which stopped Napoleon in his tracks because it was the year of Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you understand that? Didn't you say? When I said 1805, didn't you realise, that's Waterloo?
Yeah. Simon in Sheffield has texted into 81089.
Yeah.
He says, Porkyvision consists of this: bladderisation, Rogerisation, horse with mad eyes, and I went to the cinema in Washington.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. What's wrong with that?
Well, no, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, but they're all relevant facts.
Yeah. Sean says, helpfully, right, this will clear up any confusion about Chesney Hawkes.
Yes.
Nick Kershaw wrote that Chesney Hawkes song, he says, and Roger Daltrey was Chesney's father in Buddy.
Oh, I see.
So that would explain. So some people they see a movie and they think that somebody is somebody's dad.
I see.
When in fact it only happens in a film.
Who was Nick Kershaw?
Nick Kershaw was a musician, a songwriter.
Yeah, but which group was he in?
Well, he was just Nick Kershaw.
Was he?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very impressive to me.
Really? You never heard of him?
Yes, I have heard of him.
Okay.
Now then, here we go. I've got some fantastic compliments here.
Yeah.
Liz, our old friend, says,
not that old, is she?
look at the time, I'm waiting for your review, better than Radio Times or any paper. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I had the review now, Liz, so I hope you're...
And somebody
happy
calls
with it.
himself Plank, but I presume I'm not sure if he wants to call himself that. The Vicar Cop programme is called Grantchester. Most people watching War and Peace won't have read the book, but will they have utility rooms?
Well, yeah, I mean, you think everybody's got one. William here says, excellent review by Porky, first class. Now, you see, these are the sort of things that make this job worth doing. You know, you get sort of responses
When you
like
get that sort of response, yeah.
Yes.
Waterloo was 1815, not 1805, says Greg.
No, let me just think this through. Sorry,
Trafalgar
Waterloo was
Trafalgar was
1805. That's absolutely right. 1805.
You got
was
that
Trafalgar.
wrong before the Battle of Waterloo quiz.
No, I don't think I did.
Chris says, first time I've heard Porkyvision live, thanks to my 1-year-old son who has a cold. I just about managed to follow it.
Yes,
Hashtag confused.
Good. Right, Neil here says...
Neil
No, Neil Humphreys his name is. But he... Now, you know when I said before that my questions to the North Korean expert were excellent?
Well, you read that one out, yes.
Yes, well, Neil has actually followed that up and said... never actually said that old Porky's questions were excellent. Both asked fine questions. So he's giving you a bit of a compliment there
thank
as
you
well.
very much.
But people generally
So where did you get that from, then? Did you just make that bit up?
What?
The bit about Porky's questions were excellent.
So I interpreted what he said.
I see.
And most people do regard me as the sort of the current affairs expert on this show.
Is that right?
So that's why they said that.
Tragically, I think you're wrong about that, as you are about most of the other things you come out with.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Well, that was why I was hoping that on 2015 quiz, because some people may not have heard it, of course, because we did it last Thursday during the day, the 2015 quiz, which was mostly about current affairs in the past 12 months.
Yeah, but it was...
And you got 0 out of 10.
No, but
You got none.
The
Not
questions,
one question did you get right.
They were so obtuse, it wasn't even worth talking about.
Obtuse?
I see this one that you've got here from Bill.
You're calling me obtuse?
Obtuse. Yes, you're right. The main character is Pierre Bezukhov, but I said it was. It's just a question.
No, you said his name was Bazooka.
It's just a question of the way. It is just a question of the way you pronounce it.
Yeah, okay.
And
is there? Here's a question I didn't get a chance to ask you because you were so in full flow.
Right.
Do they speak with sort of what you might call broken English Russian accents?
No, they don't.
Or do they all speak with English accents?
They speak in perfect English accents, which is exactly the way you should do it in a period drama in Russia. Because
this is the thing. Because sometimes when they do accents, it sounds a bit
talking. You know, when you see a German war film, Second World War, you know it's rubbish the minute that the German commandant says, "We have ways of making you talk."
Yeah.
You know, once.
Exactly.
Although
what I quite like is if they have not very many movies do this, but if they actually have the Germans talking in German, and they give subtitles, that's more kind of believable.
I suppose. But you know, my favourite one is always when the commandant is sitting behind his desk, and they say, "Bring me Ober-Lieutenant Schmidt."
Yeah,
you know,
it's like Casablanca's like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they've all got these dopey accents.
And then outside the room, you can hear this.
What's that?
It's the jackbooted Ober-Lieutenant Schmidt coming into the room. Actually, it sounds more like this.
Yeah. That sounds like tap dance.
Yeah, well, anyway, so he comes in.
I get what you mean.
And he says, and the commandant says, Ober-Lieutenant Schmidt, I want you to bring me the prisoner, Goering, or whatever his name is, you know.
Right.
And we will interrogate him to find out why he has been a traitor to the fatherland.
Right.
And Lieutenant Smith says, no, Commandant, we cannot do that.
Although mind you, Where Eagles Dare, there's a bit of that. And that doesn't actually affect the film.
No, that's right,
it's still brilliant. You know, I didn't see that over
Hang on,
Christmas.
I'm finished.
What do you mean you haven't finished?
I haven't finished this sequence. This is what...
You're still doing the German thing?
Yeah. And Lieutenant Smith says, no, Commandant, we cannot do that. And the Commandant says,
is this an actual script you're reading from?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. He says, why is this? And he says, well, unfortunately, Commandant, yesterday we shot Goering. He was a traitor.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that.
Is that what we had to wait for?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you had to wait for that. Yeah.
Dear God.
But I think it's brilliant. Now, listen.
Yes.
I want to tell you about a phenomenon which I've come across.
Yeah, what?
This year, which is 2015.
No, it isn't.
It's 2016. Sorry, 2016. Yeah, sorry, I got that right. Yeah. This year, which is 2016, right?
No, by the way, find the phenomenon now that you don't worry about it, but it always used to be the worry that the first cheque that you would sign in the new year, you'd forget
the wrong
year.
date, yeah.
Now that nobody writes cheques anymore, it doesn't matter, does it?
It's true. Now, what I was going to say is, although we know it is the 50th anniversary of the Boys of 66, who won the World Cup, right? And that'll all be I mean, it's already getting
there was a load of stuff on TV yesterday.
I was going to say, it's already getting celebrated.
Jeff Hurst unveiling the cup or something.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Guess what? It is the anniversary of an amazing number of things.
Is it?
I'll read them to you, okay?
Go on.
Right, it is the 400th anniversary of the death of Shakespeare.
Right.
Who was born and died, by the way, on the same day. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah, you did know that, yeah. Which was April the 23rd, 1616, his 52nd birthday.
Yeah.
And guess what he died of?
What?
Drinking too hard.
Really?
Yeah, honest to God.
Yeah.
Right, now, it is also the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme.
Okay.
In which we lost more soldiers in the first morning of the Battle of the Somme than any other battle in the history of British warfare.
Yeah.
It is the 950th anniversary of the battle very close to you.
What's that, Hastings?
The Battle of Hastings.
Yeah, I suppose it would be.
It is the 350th anniversary of the Great Fire of London.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all amazing.
Yeah, because that was in 66 year as well, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
It is the 200th anniversary of Charlotte Bronte.
Who?
Charlotte Bronte. Charlotte Bronte. Who was born in 1816.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah,
200 years.
Well, it would be, wouldn't it, if she was born in 1816?
It is the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
We've
got a lot of quizzes to do this year, aren't we?
Well, no, not at all.
Well, no, we are. We're
is
going to have to do quizzes on all these anniversaries.
Well, you may be right. It is the 350th anniversary since the day that Newton...
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about here?
Isaac
Newton was sitting in a garden when an apple fell on his head and he realised what gravity was all about.
Yeah.
How about that?
Interesting.
Newton's theory laid the blueprints for his 3 laws of motion, which are still recited by present-day physics students. How about that?
What are the 3 laws of motion?
3 laws of motion?
Yeah. Forwards, backwards, and sideways?
No, I think it's opposite reaction to force. You know what I'm talking about?
Every action has an opposite.
Prompts a reaction.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Great. So, I don't know what you're laughing at. Do you know how old Emily Bront was when she died?
What? It's the 200th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's the anniversary of her birth, right?
Yeah.
When did she die?
She was 38.
Yeah.
She was only 38.
Well, that was quite old in those days.
Ooh, I don't know about that. And of course,
What about Charlotte Bront? When's her anniversary?
Well, it's not the same as Emily Bront, is it? Or Charlotte? No, Charlotte. It was Charlotte Bront.
Well, it wasn't Emily at all.
No, it's Charlotte Bront.
Okay.
What did I say?
You said Emily.
No, it's Charlotte Bront. Eldest of the 3 Bronte sisters, grew up in the village Haworth, West York, born in 1816.
Right.
Now, we have studied...
Really out of time, by the way.
I know, don't worry about this. We have studied the Great Fire of London before.
Yeah.
Great Fire of London started on September the 3rd.
By the Dutch, right?
By the Dutch, 350 years ago. 1666, the year of the devil.
What?
Year of the devil.
Because of the 360.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Right.
And the Museum of London, a 15-minute walk from Barbican Tube, is staging Fire exhibition.
Yeah. Oh, I've got something very exciting to tell you about that, but I'll have to save it for tomorrow. That there's a new museum opening up, and it's part of the underground tunnelling system that was put in place during World War II. Amazing stuff.
If you love the Two Mikes podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
I want you to bring me the prisoner, Goering, or whatever his name is, you know.
Look at the light!